Viens entendre plein d'histoires et avoir du plaisir dans le balado On jase cosplay qui commence maintenant.
Hello everybody!
Hello!
Welcome to the stream and to this episode 4 of the On Jase Cosplay Podcast featuring AnnieChie over there.
Hello!
So, hello AnnieChie.
Bonjour, hi!
Yep, je vais le faire un petit bout en français juste pour le... Vu que AnnieChie est principalement anglophone, on va parler en anglais ce soir.
Je peux parler un petit peu en français, mais pas très bien.
Oh! Actually, someone wanted to know, someone I know, we both know, Lena, she wanted to, she never heard you speak in French.
Yes, that was like a whole thing. Quand j'étais très petite, j'étais fait tout mon école en français. Donc, j'étais bilingue, c'est ça le mot?
Bilingue, yeah.
Bilingue.
Yeah.
Mais mon soeur et mon jumelle, elles sont dyslexiques. Donc, on a fait toute notre l'école à la maison, tout en anglais, parce que c'est plus simple à faire une langue versus two.
Yeah.
So, I used to be able to speak really good French, and then I stopped practicing.
Yeah. So now you have your wish, Niana. You have heard Annie speak in French.
Some proof of some level of French.
Yeah. Well, we've known each other for quite a while. Quite a long while.
I think it was like Attack-a-thon 2015.
Yeah, or maybe 2014. Were you doing not Ravio?
I was Made in Zelda.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and you were linking it was at the big Zelda meetup.
Yeah.
And there was the Group Otaku Zelda, like Attack-a-thon Zelda. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were all in there, and that I think is how we like got to know each other, like friend each other on Facebook, started following each other. I think that's how.
Yeah, I think so.
Zelda.
I think so.
Through Zelda.
Yeah, we are both fans of Zelda, and we love this franchise.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Look at her. Look at what she's wearing right now.
Look at this.
Yeah.
That's a blank.
Yeah. Oh, you have also on the back. Oh, it's Ganon in the back.
Yeah. It's so cool.
Ganondorf. Oh, awesome. We talk each other about our dressing. What I would have, but I don't have anything Zelda related for my t-shirts. Unfortunately, after a couple of cycles in the laundry, it all come off, and unfortunately, so I decided to wear a cosplay for the blood for the cosplay gods t-shirt.
We love to support Geek Charming. Their stuff's amazing.
Geek Charming, they're amazing.
I wear their stuff all the time. Too.
Have you seen the dress that they have done with the EVs from Pokemon?
Oh my god, no, I haven't. That sounds delightful.
My girlfriend has that dress. It's
That's
really beautiful.
Adorable.
At every single convention, she's getting asked, where did you buy that dress?
I love it.
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing for that. But yeah. So when did you start cosplay?
So there's technically two answers to this because some people say that like both of these, one doesn't count, but I count it. So I've been cosplaying since 2010, but I was 13 years old. So, I'm making stuff with like assistants. I'm going to like one con a year kind of vibe, right?
In my books, it counts for me.
I think it counts. And that one con was Attack-a-thon because one of my favorite cons to this day, but that was my first ever convention, which was like, you take this small town girl and all of her little friends, and you just plop them in Montreal and cosplay. Wild.
Yeah. Yeah, sending a 13-year-old alone in a convention.
To be fair, my mom did come with me.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And she's bilingual, so we were fine.
Yeah. At that age, I highly recommend bringing someone with you to a con, because you never know. We know each other. What kind of people that could be... present at a con, and it's always good to be always with someone.
Absolutely.
Especially at that age.
Yeah. And then I like really started to be like, wait, I actually like really like doing this, and started to like do competitions and stuff and all of that. And like really like, I really want to get into like the workmanship side of things when I was about like, I think I was around 16. Yeah. I was 16, and then my first masquerade was in 2014 at Ottawa Comic Con. So like I've been doing like that part for 10 years. But I've been in cosplay for 14 years.
Actually, same as me, I would say. You started in 2010, you said?
Yep.
I started in 2012 to get like acquainted with cosplay to make sure what it is, and then I say that I belong. I say to people that I'm feeling as part of the community since 2012, and then in 2013 I started like wearing a cosplay. And
you like try it out, dip your toe in with more casual cosplays, and now you have several cosplay rooms.
yeah. There's one here. There's a storage one in my walk-in. But yeah,
it's very nice. The setup is great.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I showed Annie the full tour of the house, the neighborhood, and it's the first podcast we have here on Jase Cosplay in this room, in this new house.
I love it.
So you're the first one to set the foot here.
That makes me happy. I'm so glad to be here. This has been really fun so far because I'm from Ontario. It's a bit of a drive. Worth it. Very fun. So I'm so happy when you invited me. I was like, oh, I'd love to.
Yeah. Is this something you have done before? Some podcast or some open discussion like this?
I think I've done one other one, and that was with some folks I know from the Calgary circuit. Mm-hmm. So that one was well over a year ago now. It was kind of a similar idea, except it was all virtual. Mm-hmm. We even had the person like running the actual like stream off the side, so we could contact her and we could see her, but then the stream couldn't, kind of thing.
Yeah,
and that was also really fun. I just just chatting and vibing and talking about like specific cosplay topics that they had in mind. Especially they were wanting to talk about like a little bit about like WCS, a little bit about some of my former projects, and that was really fun. We like compared and contrast, which was a lot of fun. Chatting about cosplay is fun, guys.
Yeah, I know. And with this format, without any limits, or it's not a formal interview where we can just talk freely about stuff and just chat and have fun.
Yep.
And we're free here to talk about other subjects than cosplay. And,
absolutely. That's the cool thing about cosplay. Cosplay is the hobbyist hobby.
Yeah.
Most cosplayers have other hobbies because it's the video games that they like or the anime that they like, which is, I count that as a hobby. Liking those things can count as a hobby or other hobbies within them. And then it just trickles over to cosplay, or you start cosplaying and then you discover you really like this form of craft. Oh, you really like painting the armor, and suddenly you're painting Dungeons and Dragons minis all the time. So it's like the ultimate, like, and also it has so many skills involved with it. So like, again, if you're someone who enjoys painting, you're probably going to find something you enjoy doing in cosplay. If you're someone who's been doing embroidery for years, suddenly you're like, well, I'm going to make a costume that I can put the embroidery on. It's the ultimate hobby.
and by the way, we can maybe touch this subject, but you're a lot into sewing and all these techniques. How did you learn this?
So I started sewing when I was around 5-ish. I wasn't very serious, but yeah.
There are some people that don't know how to write at that age.
My mom was getting my sister. My mom was the crafty mom, and again, we were homeschooled, so it's kind of par for the course. She's an excellent teacher and excellent with children. So whenever people came over to our house, we were the craft house. So with that, occasionally we would run to a craft that has sewing here or there. So she had a sewing machine that we were allowed to use, stuff like that. So as young as 5, we were learning how to stitch things for our little crafts and stuff. Were we very good? Not really. But it was really, like, we enjoyed that. And then when we were a little bit older, like 10 or so, we had our own little, not very good sewing machine. And my sister actually for a while was like, I'm playing fashion designer, and would like sew little purses or try to sew little shirts for her hamsters. Adorable. They don't like that though.
Oh, okay.
They don't like that.
Hamsters don't like getting put on something.
They really don't.
No.
But so, occasionally doing little sewing projects. I make like a little pair of shorts, a little shirt, a little dress here and there. And then I went and discovered this thing called cosplay in like late 2009, because that's when I suddenly got internet access.
Oh.
A bad idea. We didn't have internet access when I was a kid.
How old were you in 2009?
That would have been 12.
12-year-old. Okay.
First ever allowed to access the internet. First ever having access, because we only had dial-up up till then.
Oh, I can't.
Truly, people are like, oh, are you a Gen Z or a millennial? And I'm like, listen, both. The answer is both, because I was raised like a millennial.
Yeah, I'm curious, what kind of impact did having internet at such a young age had for you? Maybe were you exposed to social media? What kind of impact?
Yeah, and honestly, I get those like, those like on this day memories, and I just go, oh no, cringe.
Things you should be ashamed now?
Not ashamed, but they're just like, there was a recent one, OMG, all caps, multiple exclamation points, can't wait for Halloween, all caps, exclamation points. There's a 1 in there too, it was really funny.
We've all done that, even me.
Those little things, and I'm like, can't wait for the candy and the costumes and the cosplay, because to me those were separate at the time.
Yeah.
But that, like, those cringy little things are like, OMG, so me, like, middle school behavior.
Yeah.
Because I was in middle school.
Oh, for sure.
So yeah, suddenly I had this whole world open up to me, and that mainly was DeviantArt.
Oh, famously DeviantArt, yeah.
And on there, as I'm looking for, like, some cool backdrop art for my computer, because I just got a laptop. That's very exciting when you're a kid, right? Like, oh, my first computer.
Yeah.
And I found a picture, and I'm like, whoa, this drawing's really good. It was a photograph of Laika Vox.
What is
Pikmin
it?
Link.
Oh, Pikmin Link. Oh.
Yeah, so now she just goes by her name, which is Laika Vox.
Yeah. Laika Vox. Oh, yeah.
I call her Lie all the time. It's the French
it's because I'm francophone, so I say Lee instead of Laika Vox.
I look at her name, I say, that to me, that's I don't know which, does she pronounce it Lee?
I have never heard her pronounce it, so I don't know what
it is. Because also there's Pikmin Link, so it's lit. Like, anyway,
yeah.
I adore her. She's one of my favorite cosplayers, and part of it is because I saw that picture, thought it was someone's artwork, but then realized it is someone's artwork, but in a very different way.
Yeah.
This is a photograph. I'm like, wait, this person just recreated this, like, moment, this scene. It's not just they made a costume. They are being a character to make the photos.
Yeah.
Like, that's what really drew me in. And honestly, to this day, that's still part of it. It's not just, it wasn't just a photo of a person standing in the hall, which is what, when you looked up cosplay, a lot of it was hall shots.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with a good hall shot, though, to be fair.
Yeah.
But, like, it was, again, I thought it was an artwork. So I went, this is really cool. I want to do that. And then I realized, I'm like, well, my mom's really good at sewing. She's pretty good at sewing. My mom's really good at sewing. She's taught me how to do some of this. I should do this.
Yeah.
I want to do this. I had the accessibility to do it reasonably easy. Like, I didn't have all the access to what I have nowadays, of course. And of course, you didn't have your Arta wigs and, like, a fabric store. What's that? I have my mom's stash. I still go in that thing sometimes.
There are some things when you were young that they did not exist at that time. Warbler, 3D printing. Whatever. Yeah, so lots of new techniques that were not a thing at the time.
So to me, cosplay, I'm like, well, you gotta sew.
Well, I must say 3D printing existed, but it's just that it was not open to the public.
Exactly.
It was very expensive, and now it's accessible. So and that was like, so that was the whole thing where it was like suddenly, like, I'm like, to do cosplay, I need to be able to at least sew. My mom can sew. So we went into, like, her fabric storage. We went to, like, your Party City type place to get a wig, and I made a Saria cosplay. Actually, I made a Twilight Princess Zelda cosplay first, and I did make foam armor for that. Keep in mind, I was 12. Yeah.
Honestly, I'm impressed with what I did. I still look at it and go, but I was 12.
Yeah. Was it your first cosplay, Saria?
Saria was my first cosplay I ever wore to a con, not the first cosplay I made.
Okay.
That's the, like, distinction. I have no pictures. I have one picture because I still have, I believe, the tabard.
I saw it on social media. I don't know when. I looked back at your history and I saw
and then
it.
I had the armor for years just in a closet. So I took it and went, you know what? For a 12-year-old, I didn't paint the foam. I used gold-colored foam, cut it out, and then I cut out the other shape on, like, sticky foam to make the shapes on top. And I'm like, you know what? For a 12-year-old who's just learning about this stuff, I went with Twilight Princess Zelda. Like, good for me. But my first cosplay that was, like, officially my first cosplay that I wore to a con was Saria. Because I'm like, I need to do something simpler because I didn't like how the first one turned out. I was already being critical on myself. We were off to a great start.
No, it's fine. It shows some good health that you're able to criticize yourself and look back at you in the past.
And I went, hey, that was fun, and I wanted to keep doing it. That's the important part there too. And there was this whole thing where, again, I go to the con and I'm like, oh my God. There were some incredible cosplayers there, and like they stick in my brain so much now. Like Otakuthon was big back then. It's nowhere near as big as it is now.
No, not now. They announced, let's say, I think around more than 30,000 people.
Yeah, it was nowhere near that when
At
I
that
first
time,
went.
it was like 10 or 15K max.
And because of where cosplay was at the time, like I came in right when the peak of it becoming mainstream was starting, right? So I came in at the time a lot of people came in at. But there were already a lot of people who were well established and really making beautiful work. And they were the ones that were like everyone's most memorable at the con. You don't get that at Otakuthon as much anymore because it's so many people are incredible.
Yeah.
There's such a bigger community.
The level of talent for a good portion of the cosplay community has gone up.
It's gone up and there's more, which is great.
And there's also the introduction of techniques, let's say 3D printing, that makes building armor much more easier than before.
Yeah.
And that's why maybe the visual quality of the cosplays are through the roof at some conventions.
And there's just more people who are interested in making the costumes. So like this is like we're talking like Vicky Bunny Angel. Yep. She was one, and I remember this beautiful cosplay. I had no idea what it was, but I was just like, she's pretty. I have a picture of her that I took on my tiny little cyber shot. And years later, I find these photos, and I'm like, and I had now met Vicky and hanged out and stuff. And I'm just like, hey, Vicky, I found this on my cyber shot that I took this photo of you in the con dealer hall when I was 13. Here, enjoy. And she's just like, I remember going online after, because back in those days, you would go and like look up the con name and see if your photo popped up.
Yeah.
One of mine did. It was a very exciting moment for me. But like it was a lot of the same people were showing up because they made such an impact, because again, it wasn't as big. There weren't as many cosplayers. So those people who had these beautiful, beautiful costumes, or even just really unique ones. Someone was like a Bullet Bill, like a really big one. He was just like cruising through.
Nice.
Very memorable. And a lot of people took pictures. So like a lot of these kept showing up. And like now when I look at these older pictures from this con, it goes, I remember who this person is or was, because some aren't in the community anymore. It has been 14 years.
Yeah, for sure. We see people enter and leave the cosplay community in these 14 years. Sometimes these people will stay 10 years, maybe sometimes 1 year.
Yeah, and then some people
it's
just
perfectly valid.
Some people just have to slow down because life do be lifing.
Exactly. Having children, buying a house or whatever.
Absolutely. Yeah, we attest to that. Oh my God.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah. But that's like so it was really interesting, like again coming in on the scene in that time and like seeing these people now, and it's like now I actually can say like I know these people, and that's really cool. And I guess especially when I didn't realize who they were years later, like when I met them I didn't realize that they were those people that I was like, whoa, because that first Otakuthon was just my mom, up until like I was actually pretty old when my mom stopped coming to cons with me. People are always just like, and that's probably why a lot of people assume I am much younger than I am. Yeah. Because I'm 27.
Yeah.
A lot of people are like, aren't you like 25? And I'm like, they either think I'm 25 or 35. There is no in between.
Yeah.
I am in between.
I'm 35.
Yeah.
I'm 35.
And that's because I hang out with people who are almost like in that age range. So they're like, oh, you must be just a really young looking 35. And I'm like, there's no in between for me. So but a lot of people assume I'm much younger because my mom came to cons with me for years because she found this very interesting, because she was like, that first time she walked into the con too, just went, oh, it's not just making a costume.
No,
it's like making a costume. This is a thing. She has cosplayed herself before.
Oh, really?
She used to go to the cons with us. She liked wearing overalls a lot, so she would dress as Mario and or Luigi. Yeah. My cousins actually would come with me to cons too. Yeah. That's the other thing. In my family, it's not just me who cosplays. There's me, there's my cousin, and there's my distant cousin. Yeah. There's four of us who have or do sometimes cosplay.
Speaking of family and mom, my mom is there in the chat. So, allô maman, c'est Joanne Gravel. Hello, tu nous écoutes?
Hi!
Yep. Désolé, on parle en anglais ce soir. Donc.
Je m'excuse, je suis vraiment anglophone.
Oh, it's fine. Yep. And did you have that feeling? I remember my first con, I was like, sometimes I was kind of feeling alone in my hobbies or things I like. But when I finally went to my first con, which was actually, it was Montreal Comic Con 2011, but I could not enter because there was a cap attendance and I could not get there. So I went there in 2012, and also Takuton as well. I finally found people that looked like the same thing as me. That was fun.
So absolutely. Luckily, I did have one outlet, like when I was homeschooled into going into middle school, because I come from the middle of nowhere. Our school had a cornfield around it.
Yep.
Not in a fun way. No, it's actually kind of funny because there was a cornfield and also a field full of cows, so it smelled like a farm.
Yep.
Part of the year. It fit because almost everyone who was there, if you weren't the farmer, someone in your friend group was a farmer. So small rural community, sports is the big thing. Sports is huge. Even like the town nearby us, which is Cornwall, Ontario, has a big focus on sports.
Yeah, college football or something like that. Hockey. Perhaps.
Hockey's huge. We have the OHA, the Ontario Hockey Academy near us.
Yep.
So big. It's a big thing. And you know what? That's fair because communities can't, especially smaller communities, can't focus on every single thing. It happens. Unfortunately, arts kind of gets under the layaway. Yeah. So we had like our nerdy crew. I started something called the Nerd Herd. Again, it's a farming school. It's a great name for a nerdy group.
Nerd Herd. I like it.
But nerds are very diverse people, right? Geeks, everything. We're diverse in what we particularly like. So walking into the con again with some of my cousins, eye-opening. I really started to get to know people in like 2013, and I hate to admit that it's because of Homestuck.
Yeah, the thing that is seen as cringy by some people.
I was 16, listen.
Oh, yeah. But it's fine to be cringy at 16.
Well, exactly. And that's why I haven't done face paint since, like, this past September, because I was like, oh, no, trauma. I broke out so bad because I was 16 doing gray face paint. But, yeah, especially when I started to get... It wasn't just, okay, let's go enjoy the con. It was, let's talk to the other people. And suddenly... you're seeing them as a friend suggested on your Facebook, and suddenly you find out that there's an Ottawa Homestuck Society, and you join it on Facebook now that you've figured that website out, and suddenly you're actually like not only talking to people on the regular, but suddenly they're having meetups. Yeah. They're having hangouts, non-cosplay hangouts, with just within the community. And next thing you know, you have some friends. And I gotta give a big shout out to a few people, especially MDA Cosplay, who I met through that community, because I met them through the Homestuck community, because actually they were really good friends with my ex.
Oh,
my ex from high school.
Yeah. But it's fine to have some exes.
Oh yeah,
at that time, obviously.
Yeah. So yeah, he became very good friends with them, and then I eventually met them as well at a con. I think it was like G-Anime. And then they're kind of like, hey, you should do masquerades. Hey, meet this person. A lot of my early interactions were because of MDA Cosplay. I'm very thankful for them because, Gab, you're awesome. Because they really were like, hey, you're like, I'm much younger than them as well. And they just kind of like, they took me under their wing and went, con stuff. Like, here's how some of this works. Because like, even though I was 3 years in, I was still only going to like one con, maybe two. Like I was at G-Anime for this one. Suddenly I was doing 2 cons a year, if I could.
Wow.
G-Anime was always during my high school exams, usually.
Yeah, G-Anime is in January, usually.
Yep, and that's when the Ontario high school exams
are.
Oh,
because here in Quebec it's different.
It is.
The school year ends in, well, not the year, but there's a 2-week break at the end of December, and it resumes in January, but...
Exactly.
Wow.
So our exams, we have our Christmas break, a little like 2 more weeks of school, you're in exams. So... usually, if I was able to go to G-Anime when I was in high school, it was for 1 day. And that's all I was able to usually do. And usually either my mom or one of my friends' moms would be driving us there just for the day. And that is, again, that's where I really like met like Gab. And then they're like, let me introduce you to people. I met a lot of people actually at that particular con. And I went, oh, masquerades seem like a lot of fun. And a lot of people were asking me at the con, people out who weren't being introduced to me, like, hey, are you someone who's entering the masquerade today? And I was like, should I be?
So it was your first masquerade experience?
My first masquerade experience was so G-Anime is in January, Ottawa Comic Con in May.
Yeah.
So that was the like pipeline. kind of thing.
Yeah.
A lot of these people were saying, hey, you should consider entering. I think you'd have a lot of fun. And I had Gap and other people like, hey, you should give this a shot. I think you would really enjoy this, especially because at that time, I really like, especially when I made the one costume I was wearing Jade Harley from Homestuck. And I went, that was fun. Like making it was so, it tickled my brain in the right way that nothing had ever tickled my brain quite.
Yeah. And
that's when I went, I think I want to pursue this. Because at that point, I'm like, I know I'm not going to be in an office job. I'm not going to be sitting at a computer all day. I can't. At this point, that's probably undiagnosed ADHD. But
you would not like my job.
Yeah, I would not do. I do so well in mine because I'm moving around and stuff. Like, and I'm also moving. I am making. Like, that's why I do well in that stuff. But I knew I had to do a job where I'm doing something at least a little bit creative or hands-on. And that was and that's when I went, if I want to do this, I should enter these competitions because everyone's telling me if you enter these things, you improve. And boy, howdy. Oh my God. That first masquerade I did in 2014, Ottawa Comic Con.
Yeah.
10 years ago.
Wow. Oh, 10 years already.
10 years.
Wow. Look what you've become now in that circuit.
God.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. And that's just the competition time. I entered that masquerade. First of all, I had awful social anxiety. Like, getting in front on a stage in front of 20 people in my drama class, I would have a panic attack.
Oh, really?
And I went, I'm going to go on stage at Ottawa Comic Con.
Yeah. In front of hundreds or thousands of people.
That was like 600 people that year.
Okay.
So pretty, but like for someone who can't get on stage in front of 20 to suddenly do that, I did it and it felt great. I didn't win that time. I won friends that time. I made new friends. One of them I got to see this year. She works in the cosplay lounge at Ottawa Comic Con. So I saw her there this year because she was the person, like she was sitting with us and she had done like 2 or 3 at that point. She was in Journeyman and she's in this gorgeous Elsa cosplay. So of course also looks like the friendliest person. She is a very tall woman too. So her walking in as a beautiful, sparkly Elsa, right? And just beautiful, but also welcoming as a Disney princess.
Yeah.
And she's in my den. And she's so encouraging. And she's explaining to me how they work. And then across from me, another person shows up. And she's also in Journeyman. This is her 2nd or 3rd masquerade as well. They know each other. And she's also just like, let me tell you. So that's our Comic Girl cosplay.
Nice.
The 2 of them are like, here's how it works. And they're like really encouraging me. They go on, it's time to get on stage, and like one of them gives me a little pat on the back, like, you got this, you're gonna be so good. I was just doing a walk-on. So nervous in the few seconds leading up, got on there and it felt so good. I just walked on and that's it. I did a spin. Very proud of myself. Not much of a skit. I walked on. But also
but it's fine for a first experience.
Exactly. And the high I felt.
Yep.
I went back to school that fall. I felt great for about, you know what? I still feel great from that. I felt great until like, it was like this high that I needed to catch it again kind of thing. Like I was like, I am addicted now. Here we go. But not actually. Like I'm not actually addicted to it. But you know, it was that like, that was fun. I do it again.
Yeah. The feeling of just playing your character, making something, or even if it's a walk-on, just being into your character and displaying that to the crowd, showing that is wonderful.
And I did the thing. Like when I first saw the masquerade in 2010 at Talkathon, I was like, I want to get on stage. And then followed by, oh my God, why the hell would I get on stage? Because again, couldn't do it in front of 20 people in class. The person that came off that stage was a totally different person, right? Yeah. That's the vibe. Like that's when I went, oh, stage fun. Cosplay. I already knew cosplay was fun. I knew making stuff was fun. Stage fun.
Yeah. Comes
Comes off the stage, new person. I felt great. I didn't win anything. The best feeling ever was the next day that Elsa won Best in Show.
Nice.
That was incredible. The streamers that you see a lot in skits these days were not that popular yet, and she had blue ones. I went, let it go. With the most wonderful like version of the soundtrack that you could possibly ask for. So I was just like, wow, this is what you can do in a masquerade? Yeah. I thought it was just the coolest thing. She is still the coolest thing. Chaos Maiden cosplay. She's not very active anymore, but she's still around the community. So I'm also very thankful for her because she was just like one of those things that made it like so fun right off the bat. And she had a moment when after I won the WCS prelims, she's like, look at my little baby cosplayer going off and killing things, to quote Mushu from Mulan.
Oh, that's so cute. The evolution from your beginnings to WCS.
And like I was petrified. Like I was literally shaking. Like I could have cried. And she went, there's a scared child here. Which follows up another thing. It was Shauna, WCS coordinator, once went, I remember when I first saw Annie in a masquerade, I was like, who forgot their little sister?
Yep.
Whose terrified little sister is here waiting for their sibling? Because I was that scared. And I was also very young in the masquerade circuit. Nowadays, it's not uncommon to see teenagers in masquerades, which is very good. I love to see that.
Hey, by the way, for your first masquerade, how old were you?
I was 16.
Did you enter the junior or straight to the novice?
I was a novice because I was too old to be in junior.
Oh, that's right. It's 12 or 13 years old.
Besides a few of the like child entries, which I think there was 2 that year, I was the youngest by a long shot. Everyone else was 21 or older. So like it was this like weird, like again, I was the outlier here. And then like 10 years later now, you see younger kids entering masquerades more often, not in the kids category. Some are in the kids category still, but and you see them and they're thriving.
And it's perfect at that age because you can develop your skills at a young age and it goes with you over your life.
And it's good skills to be learning because again, in that time, I'm learning, oh, I like this. I like this a lot. Attackathon 2014 comes along. I make Maiden Zelda. I enter an Attackathon.
Yep.
Still got nothing. There's that high again.
Yep.
That felt so good. And my cousin entered that masquerade too.
Nice.
Yeah, she was a Cloud in the dress. Cloud Strife in the dress, and I was Maiden Zelda. We were like 3 entries apart. That was also very fun. She occasionally would pop into a masquerade here or there, and it's very funny still to this day, where sometimes it's just like, oh yeah, that person's my cousin. People are like, oh, wait, you have cousins that cosplay? It's like, yeah, I sure do.
Yep.
Even this year at Attackathon, one of my cousins were in cosplay, and so I was like, oh my god, that cute cosplay. I'm like, oh, that's actually my cousin. Wait, come back here. Like,
yep.
But yeah, it's also this whole like that masquerade changed things for me, obviously, and then Pop Expo, Ottawa Pop Expo, R.I.P. forever.
Yeah. Did it change name or did it just die?
It got rid of it, and now they have Anime Ottawa instead. Essentially, is what's I think has happened. I don't know the insides to that, but now instead of a second pop culture convention, they now have an anime convention run by the same people. So they have Ottawa Comic Con, Anime Ottawa. Great con, by the way. Can't go next year.
Yep.
It's a whole other story.
Yeah.
Where was it? Oh yeah, so Pop Expo rolls around. Again, I'm still in the novice category. I am still learning. I'm still having the best time. I don't care at this point. I haven't won anything. This is still the greatest moments of my life. Like, I'm having the best time.
Nice.
17, I went from being like this really anxious, like, oh my god, what's going on, to this is great. I'm feeling good. I was in a new, much healthier relationship.
Yeah.
I was in a better place in all senses. Grades were going well, and suddenly I had a direction, and I went, oh, I like this. I entered that masquerade. And then again, I'm not expecting anything. My little performance was cute. I tried a performance this time. Yep. It's still what I think one of my worst cosplays I've ever made.
Which one was it?
My Princess Daisy, classic Princess Daisy.
Oh, did you do multiple versions of this one, or just one?
I only did the one.
It looks beautiful on social media, I would say.
It looks fine on social media. Unstyled wig, like the hoop skirt. I didn't make the hoop skirt. I was still learning how to make costumes in general. The skirt doesn't fit on the hoop skirt. It's not petticoated properly. There's so many things I could like pick on with it. But also, I was 17. Also, there was holes in it. Anyway.
No, it's fine. You're learning.
Yeah. And at this point, I'm also only doing most cons for one day, usually. So I didn't get to go to the award ceremony for that one. But that didn't matter because Yaya Han and Johnny Junkers, who was I think he's still active out in the cosplay community, but these two were the guests, and they were some of the judges.
Yep. And
I was Yaya Han's judge's pick.
Oh,
so
awesome.
In that moment, again, like, I was like, okay, I'm doing something right here. Like, okay.
Yeah.
And like, that felt so good to be like, because they brought their judges' picks on stage. So there was 5 of us total. And it just like, my heart felt very full. Yeah. And again, I can look back on that cosplay and be like, ugh. But she also really liked my stage presence. That was one of the big things. She's like, because I did like a little bit where I just had the music going. That's my first time trying a skit. And I was like, okay, I want the ninja to come on stage and like start dancing like she's stealing my spotlight. And I do like the Princess Peach and Smash and like hip check her off. And then just kind of go like that towards the audience kind of vibe.
Nice.
And I mean, Daisy's sassy, right? It's Princess Daisy from Mario. So she really liked that and thought it was really cute. She's like, oh, and the song came on. It was really good. And I was just like, yeah, hon, and you're saying this to me right now?
Yeah, your heart's pounding a bit.
Yeah, and that kind of cemented that. And then I entered a masquerade with a group in the artisan division. Oh, wait, no, I actually did win something. To this day, I have no idea what. Because the next day, someone's like, you won something, but I can't remember what it was. It was a full award, though, for workmanship.
Okay.
I think it was for hems.
Did they send you nothing?
I never found out.
Oh, really?
I still don't know to this day.
Okay. Did you left your address or something?
I did. I never got anything. It's okay. That con, there was a lot going on with them, so I'm like, I don't even care. I just knew I won something, and I got a Gayahan judge's pick. When you're a novice, that's still a big thing.
Yeah.
So the next masquerade I enter was G-Anime. And we're not going to go through all my masquerades. That's
no problem. We're here for that. Perfect. Feel free to talk about that.
But the next one was also significant. I enter finally with Gab, MDA Cosplay. We're doing a group, but we have to enter at Gab's division. Gab has been in the scene for much longer. They're an artisan division.
Yeah, you have to enter the division of the highest one in your team.
Yep.
Yeah. Exactly.
So we went in honorable mention, and in the honorable mention, it does cover the costumes I made in the group, because I made 2. It was a League of Legends group, just like everyone else at G-Anime 2015. Everyone was the League of Legends.
Nice.
So good. And we got honorable mention, and it covered the costumes that I made. It's like the techniques also covered mine. And when I talked to another one of the judges later on, like I'm just like, should I mean, that doesn't mean I'm stuck in artisan. It's an honorable mention. But because it also covered my technique and I'm the journeyman, should I? And they just kind of look at me. They're like, you don't have to. And it still stands. That's how that works. You don't have to. I don't think it would hurt for you to be in artisan. I think you would do well there.
Yeah, because the recommendation is you win 1 prize in novice, then 3 in each other category.
Yeah, that's like the recommended.
But it's the recommendation. It does not mean that you have to follow that.
Yep.
But the system is made so that you can grow and learn skills as you
and at this point,
yourself.
I am in sewing classes on the side because we don't have those in my hillbilly high school. Hashtag Go Crusaders. This is a self-read.
Yeah, it's fine.
But yeah, so I'm taking classes. I am learning. I'm making stuff on the side. I'm making little fashions for my friends. Like, I made my dress for semi-formal twice. Like, I am thriving. Again, I look back at the workmanship and go, oh boy. But I was doing, so my improving, and especially masquerades pushing me to want to make workmanship a thing. My improvement was like, I don't want to be like, oh my God, my workmanship was skyrocketing. But oftentimes when you're first starting in masquerades, that push and motivation it gives you makes it so that your improvement starts to speed up really fast, especially when you don't have very many skills to start with. And suddenly you're learning new skills. So therefore your skill level increases much quicker. Compared to like now when you have a lot more skills, it's a lot harder to get that fast increase because you've already done that. You've already done the most of that.
Yeah.
That's like there's like a whole psychology theory on that kind of stuff. That's a whole complicated subject. But that was happening. I was going.
Yeah.
And then I realized I liked this stuff a whole lot and went, what jobs are available? Because suddenly we're in careers.
It's time to pick a job.
It's time to be like, I have 2 more years of high school. And in those 2 years, you got to choose classes based on what college or university program you want to go into. Because if I don't need to take calculus, I'm not.
Yeah, calculus courses are so painful. It's not even useful in life after. So
at one point, they're
honest,
just like, we could put you in calculus just for fun. And I'm like, real fun? And they're like, you're good at math. Doesn't mean I like it.
Exactly. Same for me. I was good, but not really what I wanted to do. And
No.
in computer science, well, math is required, but you don't do a lot of that, to be honest.
It's not that kind of math. I do.
Exactly.
I do the math. Like I do a lot of math, to be fair, both in when I'm doing cosplays and when I'm at work. The amount of times I'm sitting there dividing fractions because everything commercial is in imperial, and that's a whole other subject.
Yeah.
So you're dividing eighths and you're dividing sixteenths. I can do most of it so quickly in my brain now.
Mm-hmm.
But the amount of times I'm just doing math that is measurement math or like angles and bisecting angles, and like this is stuff you often learn in like grade 7 and 8.
Yep.
And I had a really cool moment with an old middle school teacher where I said, "Hey, you know that like class of yours that like math class years ago? Actually, you probably don't. You've taught so many classes now. I'm like, remember like that stuff that we learned like in your geometry class?" He's like, "Oh yeah, the one where you were the only person to get 100% in the class." And I'm like, "Okay, so he does remember." Grade 8 me was doing great. No, but I geometry, that kind of stuff clicks with my brain.
Yep.
And I was the only person to get 100% on the test, and apparently he remembered that, which I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
is that the only time that's ever happened?
He does not. Well, yeah, exactly. That's not something that's common.
So we got to have this cool moment where I was like a few years into college, and I'm like, I'm using that every day because that's the biggest thing in like geometry and stuff like that. The kids go, "Sir, when am I ever going to use this?" And that's a valid question.
Yep.
That's a good question to ask because when are you going to use this? He now has an answer. If you sew, if you do fashion, if you do cosplay, if you do some of these things, you're going to need that.
You should see the amount of geometry I'm doing when I'm making armor, calculating angles, proportions, and whatever. So that's a type of application that you can do.
Exactly. I actually did a video a long time on my YouTube channel talking about like which school subjects can you use in cosplay. The answer is most of them.
Yeah.
The majority. Like,
but yeah, there's one thing also. It's not necessarily the subject that you learn in courses. It's the like you develop a methodology of tackling a problem and solving it, and that's the I think the most important part in the at least a good important part of the school system or what you can learn from this.
Absolutely.
I know in computer science and whenever I was at university, I was told that there's 2 skills available that are really, really important. You need to learn. So have a methodology, tackle things in a way, and I don't remember the second one. So I think you can insert it into the first one that I saw. I said.
Like with learning to learn, even like in college, my fashion history course, which really that changed the whole course of my life. Good fun.
Yeah.
Anyway, they're teaching you how to research, right?
Yeah.
They're teaching you to learn how to teach yourself, how to do research and stuff. And that stuff is so valuable because this is a whole fashion history and theory thing. Again, this could be a whole podcast on its own.
Yeah.
But whenever you're making a costume, all clothing history is very fascinating. All clothing originates from something, and you can look at it at a timeline and see how it evolved. So unless the clothing is super far out and alien, which some certainly are, Xenoblade Chronicles.
Oh, yeah.
But
I can talk about that. I have 3 cosplays.
Most shapes come down to like, is it shirt? Is it pants? Is it skirt? Is it gown? All of these things, they can somehow all trace, almost always, they could trace back to what historical backing is here. Link's tunic, that's a tunic.
Yep.
Now, does it look anything like an actual medieval tunic? No, it doesn't. It's not historically accurate. But you can look back at those things and suddenly you can do that research and find patterns that are better for making it and understanding those things better. So even if you're making a character who's wearing a suit, you can be like, well, what kind of suit is that? If the character's like a 1930s mafia boss, but you don't know that kind of information, right? You're like, I don't know, it's a guy in a suit. Then you can look into suits and suddenly you can figure out, wait, that one looks like the same thing. And suddenly Google 1930s suit pattern instead of just suit pattern, and then you have a better resource. So learning to research on what you're looking at and where it comes from and when it comes from can be really cool.
And also it's something that you apply to your job because you're an historical costume designer.
Yes, so I am one of, well, we're gonna need a third person soon, guys. There's 3 people in my position, and we are the historic costume specialists. Again, in college, I realized that historical costuming seemed like it was going to be the route I was going to take because I loved it. I was like, this is great. When we did historical fashion I did a 3-year program in fashion design at Fanshawe College in London, Ontario. Great program. I loved it. Very hands-on, lots of fun, great people, great teachers. And then there was a postgraduate at the same school. And this is what sent me there, because after 3 years, if you have any kind of prerequisite, but especially if you graduate that program, you can get into the costume production for theater program.
Nice.
Instead of choosing one or the other, in 4 years, I would get both.
Wow.
Because other programs, it was 4 years of costume, 4 years of fashion, 3 years of costume, 3 years of, like, it was this 3 to 4 years of one or the other. This way, I was able to get both. I was going to be near some family because I had a random little group of family over there. And I would get to do both and experience both. And the costume one, it wouldn't be taking 8 years or something like that of school just to the first few months of being like, oh, yeah, I did this exact thing in fashion. I did this because you have to learn the basics first, which is why there's prerequisites to get into costume. And I thought that was really clever, and it was really clever. Program still had some things to figure out. It was a very new program. The whole theater campus downtown London, Ontario had some things to figure out. But in that time, I realized, oh, like every other girl, I thought I was going into wedding dresses, y'all. I'm not even making my own wedding dress.
Yeah, but since everyone wants to go there, there's probably not a lot of options there. So looking at historical costume design or a job like this.
And the theater program focused a lot, because you did cover fashion history and fashion. You need to. You absolutely need to cover that stuff, because you have to understand, again, where the clothing came from to get to where it is now.
Yeah.
And to get what you're referencing sometimes. But there was also this whole thing where it was like, I need water real quick.
Yeah, no problem. You talk a lot, so that's normal that you need to drink.
I am a yappy human.
Yeah. We love you like that. You're passionate, and it shows. The chat says it.
Oh, thanks, chat. That's so kind.
Nice.
Where was I going with this? Oh, yes. So then we start in theater costuming. You need to learn historical stuff, because most theaters will do like Shakespeare or any of those kind of things, or the stories take place in like historical dramas. So in the theater realm, you need to know this stuff and how to kind of make some of it. Or make it within a theater production way, because you can't always make it historically accurate when you only have a day to make a dress.
Yep.
That happens sometimes. So yeah, in that time I realized I liked that. And part of the program was to take a postgraduate.
Yeah.
That was the postgraduate. It was to take a work placement of some kind. And you were allowed to request where you could go. And at that time, and in those summers in between, I was working with someone at a historical site. And she was one of the 3 women who worked at as a historic costume specialist at Upper Canada Village. Upper Canada Village, this place that's very like important to me in my childhood. I did the camps there. I dressed in costume. I did all the activities. That's another place I learned where I love sewing.
So you do full circle. You go back there.
It became this full circle, yeah. And like as a kid, again, like I was really passionate about sewing for a little bit, because at 9 years old, I did the camp and they taught us some sewing there. So it was this full like, could I get a placement at Upper Canada Village? So I send a message over to this person I was working with, and I say, hey, and then I was just working in an archives job, like a random summer job as a student, right? And I was just, because I thought history was interesting. I knew the local history of the area really well. So, I contact her. I'm like, would it be possible for me to do a work placement with you guys? And what I didn't know at the time was she was hoping I would ask, basically. Because they were all in this job. These 3 women were in this job for over 30 years with no changes, because they love it so much. They're very good at it. So there's this terrifying moment of, we've all been here for 30 years.
Yeah, so you start being comfortable with...
Eventually, we're going to retire.
So that's why there was an opening.
And Morrisburg's kind of in the middle of nowhere, which is the point, because you need the village to be in the middle of nowhere. If you have skyscrapers in the background, it doesn't work.
To keep the authentic vibe and everything.
A bunch of other history involving like the area of why the village is there. So it needs to be there. It can't be moved. It can't be anywhere else. It works there for a very specific reason. And I happen to be from that area. Very convenient. So it's the best option for me to potentially go there as a work placement. So they placed me there. I went up to my teachers. I'm like, I want to go to Upper Canada Village. And they're just like, wow, we've never sent anyone there. Do you happen to have any contacts? Yep. Give them the name. I just slip it over to her. Here you go.
Yep.
Here's the name. Here's the person. Here's how I know this person. And here's how I got this contact name. Because I had to get a supervisor's name, right? And they had to like approve stuff. So everything ended up working out. I get in. Love this whole work placement. It's 8 weeks of work. I am having the best time. And they hire me on afterwards as an interpreter out in the village, and they just put me in the dressmaker's house all the time because they're like, oh, she knows her stuff.
Nice.
So I'm in costume for the rest of the summer, explaining 1860s life to people. And I'm like, I love this place. But there wasn't a job for me. And then the pandemic hit. So there certainly wasn't going to be a job for me. And then I eventually get into a fashion job in Brockville, which is why I moved to Brockville.
Yep.
Weird that I got a fashion job in Brockville, but there was a little fashion house that was starting. I was the fashion house. When I got hired, I was. They were looking for a seamstress, and I could kind of do a little bit of all of the stuff in production because of my fashion background. So I did the patterns, I did the fittings.
So when it does not exist, create it your own. And
that's what they did. They created this little fashion house. I happened to be like the right fit. I moved to Brockville. A recession hits Brockville in 2022. Right? Very recently, a small recession. So I stopped. They have to let me go. They don't want to. They tried not to. They had to let me go. Whenever you have a thing, when you have a business, sometimes if it's close or just if it was get rid of the in-house production. Yeah. It's the most expensive part. Yeah. So they're actually doing really, really well on their own still now. They don't have any in-house production though. Yeah. Right? I was the in-house production. It was really fun. I loved that job. It's a great company.
For them, it costs less to outsource it.
Well, they actually mostly bring in other brands now. Yeah. Which is fine. That's great for business. But for a while, they had their own in-house stuff in Brockville. Could you imagine walking into a small store, like a mom and pop shop, where you can see the nice brands like your Joseph Ripkovs and all of these in the window. And when you walk in, you find out they have their own in-house, made-in-town brand.
Yeah, super unique.
That's impressive. And we're making nice things. They are very nice. I sometimes still see people wearing it and I'm like, I made that. Like that's a cool feeling. Nice. But I lost the job, unfortunately. But that job, they let me go the week before NadeshiCon 2022. That same week. Oh, yeah. So I'm going into that con like, oh crap. But the Monday, so the week before they let me go though, a job posting goes up on the St. Lawrence Parks Commission, which is what Upper Canada Village is under, because my uncle is in that branch as well. And he just goes, look what they just posted. Historic costume specialist. Wow. One of my three mentors retired. And I did double check. They're all fine. Like I went like, are they okay? Like, are they? Because I knew they wanted to be there as long as possible. They loved it. They were putting off retiring. Like, oh, maybe I'll retire next year, and they just wouldn't because they just like, I just want to go back. Like they were having a good time.
I'm curious. At what age did they retire? It's not too personal.
The oldest was 70.
Okay.
Yeah. So like past age of most people retire, but they just stuck with it because they liked it, which is that makes you go, I want that job. I want to be at a job where I love it that much that I'll be there for 38 years. Yep. Like, that's amazing. Nice. So the job posting goes up. I do the test. And I'm very lucky. And I have a very good reference because my former boss, again, when she let me go, she's like, I don't know what you're going to do. You just bought a house here in town. And like, oh my God. And I'm just like, to be fair, last Friday I applied to Upper Canada Village. And she just goes,
problem solved.
Well, we're hoping, right? So she's like, I'll put one hell of a word in for you. Please make me your reference. And I'm like, okay. It ended up all going well. I end up with this amazing job. And I can honestly say it is my absolute dream job. I am doing creative stuff all day. The village is made up of theater nerds, tradesmen, artists, a lot of these folk. And even the tradesmen, you would think that they would be kind of like, oh, like they're older guys, and you'd think maybe they'd be a bit like, not the kind of piece that people get along with. No, they're all wonderful. Yeah. They're wonderful.
If I understand correctly, like Upper Canada Village, do you know the Village Québécois d'antan here in Quebec? I think it's the same thing or similar.
It's similar vibe. I know that all the nearby villages. We are the biggest one in Canada. I know that. But we're the biggest one, and we're all different time periods, which is very nice. But we all have some contact with each other. There's often some cross visiting to kind of compare notes on stuff, because we are dressing over 150 staff in different positions. So it's not everyone's in the same costume. And that's part of the fun, is like, oh, you're cooking in the Laux farmhouse.
Yep.
Okay, so you can't be in a fancy dress with a hoop on.
No.
Because that's a little dangerous, and health and safety won't let us do that.
Yeah.
So they can't be in a big fancy dress covered in trims either. Oh, you're the dressmaker. Well, you should be in a hoop skirt and covered in trims and fancy things and all of that. Or sometimes it's, okay, well, historically that job would not be done by a woman. So you're a man now. Congratulations. And we dress them in the men's clothes because it's safer. And historically, a woman wouldn't do that job. Most of our staff who work with the horses are actually a lot of women. We're just like,
awesome.
The big joke is like, oh, the horse girl to Upper Canada Village farmer is.
Yeah.
It's a rural area. There's a lot of people who work with horses. So we do have a lot of women who dress and represent men in the village. So it's also fitting historical silhouettes that were historically meant for men to women. And also we do have some like non-binary folk, and we accommodate them as well. There's one that's like, they're in the domestic unit, so they're fancier clothes. So they have their fancy men's clothes and their fancy dress.
Nice.
Depending on where they are in the village, or what day or what feeling they have.
Or what are the needs for the day, or if some employees don't show up.
The second they were like, hey, just letting you know, I'm this. And we're just like, all right, what accommodation are you asking us for? And next thing you know, now they have 2 really good costumes that work really well for them. They look great in both. They genuinely look fantastic in both. And they're good at their job with that. And we're just like, we love to see it. And I get to do fun research. This year I've been on an arsenic kick. I love arsenic. That's a weird thing to say.
You can clip that to the chat if you want. She loves arsenic.
It's a fascinating subject because it was used in fashion.
Yeah.
Right? So I get to learn all these cool things. I'm constantly learning, and that's the cool thing about the costuming in my job, but also costuming and cosplay, and it all comes back, right?
Yeah.
You never stop learning. If you stop learning, you just kind of plateau. You can't stop learning.
Yeah.
Because like I was saying things to my coworkers, and they're just like, I've never heard of that. And I'm not talking about like crafting stuff. I'm talking about in the sewing realm.
Yeah.
And they're like, I've never done that.
Yeah.
They've never come across it.
It's part of the journey to learn, to develop your skills. Yeah.
And now, even though all of us, there was 4 of us working there this year, 2 of them were about to retire, so they were both on part-time. So there's 4 of us working in there at any given time, usually on shifts. So there's never all 4 of us in, except for one day. That was really fun. One day in the whole summer and spring, like that's one day all 4 of you were in. Yeah. But it was really cool where like I became the hat person. I am known as the hat person. Someone's hat's broken. They're like, well, guys, because staff come to us when stuff breaks. It's like the theater show's constantly going. You never know what they're going to bring you or how they broke it or how it fell apart, etc. When it's a hat, they come to me right away now, which is very funny.
Yeah.
Certain tears, they'll bring in a shirt and I'll be like, oh, that's a peculiar tear. Hey, and give it to my coworker. You're good at this kind of tear.
Yeah. Because
even though we all have the same job and we're all doing the same thing, there's no hierarchy because we're all on shifts. Like you're all on different days because the village is open every single day. Yeah. There's no, like the weekends are open. There's no days off in the middle. Yeah. So we're always shifting and moving around.
Except in some seasons, for example, right now, I think.
Yeah. So in the fall, the village is mostly closed except for Pump Inferno, which is a separate event that we run. That's totally unrelated. I just work there while stuff is happening over there. I work behind the scenes, and then when the village does go into September, it closes for 2 days a week.
Yep.
So I work those days. I work when it's close, so my villagers are coming in and bothering us. We love our people. Yeah. There are some days where I can't even we always have ongoing projects, whether it's some shirts, a really fancy dress. I got to make a really fancy one this year. It was so much fun. But that dress took a very long time to make just because you never know who's going to come through the door with a weird, so I lost a fight with a calf and their shirt's just torn down the front. Okay, you need a new shirt. Okay, we need to fix that. Or it's a constant problem-solving job.
Does it happen a lot? Or, what's your percentage of repairing stuff versus creating new costumes there?
I would say 75-25. More fixing.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. when when the village is closed, we are doing a lot more making of stuff. It is so busy because again, anything could happen when they're out there, because they're not just pretending, they're actively working, which is kind of the incredible part. We're not making just costumes, we're making work clothes. So things happen. Some of the clothes, like the little dress I wore when I was 9 years old, we still have it because we do kids programs too and we assign costumes. I found that little dress. It was made in 2006. Which I think is why Loki Samurai is saying 2006. That is what he's referencing.
About 20 minutes ago, but it's fine.
He has
visited maybe Loki, if you want to clarify, if it's the same thing.
He has visited me at the village a few times because they're in the same field. So I was like, let me show you. Because it is not open to the public usually. So it is cool when I get to show people a little bit of behind the scenes, because it's a hidden, accessible place so all the villagers can come to us when an emergency happens. And you never know what's going to happen. Yeah, we also dress children, and so some of those costumes, they don't get worn as much because they're worn for a week here or there, once or twice. So they last a really long time, because the more you wear something, the more it wears out. But we even have some adults' costumes that are almost the same age as I am, and they look great still. So there's you're wearing historical clothing that also has its own history, and not just the historical references. Sometimes you pull out a dress and someone goes, oh, that was this person's dress before they retired. Or there was one, no one wanted to wear it because they're like, that person died a few years ago and it feels wrong to wear what used to be her dress. So that one got retired. That one got put aside. But that kind of thing. And that's this beautiful thing where you get to put people in these really interesting, nice clothes, or sometimes really raggy clothes. That's also fun. If someone came up to us once and was like, I need the most rancid thing you got. We're like, okay, everything's gonna be in a decent condition. They're like, okay, but still give me the most patched up pair you got. And we're like, oh yeah, all right, let's do this.
But I'm wondering, are there things that from your job that techniques or ideas perhaps for some characters or clothes that you're bringing into cosplay, or does it impact your selection of your next cosplay project in a way?
So absolutely. Even though my village is only in the even though the village is only in the 1860s, when you study and research, you always look before and after as well. I play this fun game now on my phone. There's some Instagram accounts that I follow, and they post beautiful extant garments, so surviving garments from between the ages of 1800 to 1900. And before I look at the description, I look at it and go, okay, what year is this? I can usually, I can get the decade right every time now. If it's the 1860s, I can usually get the exact year now, which I'm very proud of. But you have to kind of know what came before to understand what you're currently designing and what comes after, so you can explain why this part is kind of weird right now, because it's evolving. You need to understand a little bit of all of it. So because of that, me doing my Sakizo candy tea, that is definitely a historical silhouette. It's not historically accurate. That's kind of teenage wear, and teenage wear didn't really exist in the 1880s, 90s, and it's based on multiple periods after my usual time period. But I knew some of the stuff from just technically what would be 20 years before, timeline-wise, would still be in here. So I was able to take some of those things. There were certain techniques I had never heard of, like Dorset buttons. I love Dorset buttons. They're so cool. They take 2 hours each to make, and I had to make 10 of them because when I looked at the art, I went, well, she has these little circles across her thing. And historically, sometimes they would decorate these outfits with Dorset buttons. So I was like, and they look very homespun because they are spun. And they look very handcrafty. So I was like, so there I am looking at this itty bitty one that someone at work made. And I'm just like, look at this little guy. And they're putting it onto a belt, because we also help them with their projects. Everyone in the village is working on stuff, right? The women who are in the domestic unit, they're sewing, they're working on real garments too, which is really cool. And usually it's accessories like belts or something. So one of them had all these Dorset buttons she had made because she was really good at them. When she was done, she gave them to someone else and they put it onto a belt. And I went, I loved the texture of it because it was a black velvet belt with these Dorset buttons on it. The Dorset buttons create texture. And I went, I love how that looks. And I found out there's a lot of ways to make a Dorset button. It's really cool. You can make really cool designs. But the one I was looking at, I'm like, the pinwheel classic Dorset button with a bead in the middle would be really cool. And then I made a whole belt to them. And it's just this whole I was wearing the cosplay yesterday actually with some
Yeah.
some friends.
Yeah, we saw it on social media.
Yeah.
Yes.
we were doing some photos real quick. And when I took it out of the bag, I was like, oh yeah, the doors buttons actually look like they make it just something about it.
Yeah,
makes
it
look
stands
really,
out in a way.
Yeah, and then I have access to documents on how people sewed in the 1860s. I don't sew the hand way of sewing. Like I do this way. It's this way. Like it's backward. I can't do it.
Okay, so you kind of invert your wrist in a way. Instead of doing this, you're doing
the
this?
direction that I naturally go in is not the way they recommend in these sewing books.
Also, what is there a reason?
The directions. I don't know. They're just really into it's like when they're really into right-handedness and left-handedness, right? Like you gotta correct that. It's the same kind. Like this is the right way to do it. There isn't. My coworkers and I all sew differently. We can't even pick up each other's hems when we're hand hemming because we sew differently. Like it's really funny. Like one of them picked up my hand hemming once. Like okay, I'll finish. It was like a tea cloth or an apron or something. Need to be hand done because if it's out in the village, it's got to be authentic. And she's just like she picks it up and she's like, I have to go this way to do it. And then she would have to be like holding it like this to do it, and it was uncomfortable. But I go this way. So it's this cool thing where the book says, oh, the etiquette way, the proper etiquette ladies way to do it is this way.
Yeah.
And
probably has to do with left-handed versus right-handed, the way you describe it.
Absolutely, because they're really into etiquette in that era. But that's stuff to keep in mind when you're making a costume based on that historical period and stuff. And it gets really, really cool. And also you see how all the undergarments change and stuff.
Yeah.
Certain undergarments, like if you are into making costumes between like the 1860s to like almost turn of the century, like you're hitting Edwardian, late Victorian stuff, you could get away, in theory, with one corset that's somewhere in the middle. Mm-hmm. And then that's what I've done. I have a versatile corset that is the perfect transitional between both. Someone in the later periods could absolutely still be wearing that corset. You're not going to change your corset every single year. Mm-hmm. Someone in the earlier time period doesn't look similar. So it's the perfect. So if you're cosplaying from an earlier period or cosplaying from a later period, you use the same corset. You don't have to make a brand new undergarment. Because I'm not talking about the outer garment. I'm talking about the undergarment that you wear underneath. I wear that with multiple costumes. My Snow White, Sakizo, Rosie.
Yeah, I'm thinking of something, since you're speaking a lot about historical costumes, I mean, Costume Con, a con like this would be perfect for you because there's so many like historical references or costumes from different places in history. You're sad because the Montreal one did not happen.
I'm so sad. I was planning on going there, meeting some people. I didn't have a historical costume to wear, but Meg and I were actually going to do our first team, Annie team up. We were going to be doing our Tsubasa costumes together. We had a whole skit the weekend before that con. 3 of us, like 3 different groups, got together to practice like skits to enter in the fantasy and sci-fi masquerade there. I do eventually want to do Costume Con because again, that's my interest. I love it.
You will have to travel to go to another city somewhere in North America. I think.
Exactly.
It's only either North America, but USA and Canada. I think.
I think so. I think they've tried to get it in Mexico before. I think they should also because that's really it's all North America encompassing.
Yeah.
I absolutely want to go one day. If it comes closer, absolutely. You'll catch me there so fast. And it's not just like there's 4 different competitions, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
But it's the going and learning that I'm like, I love learning, which sounds so nerdy, but that's again, the cool thing about costuming, cosplay, sewing.
Yeah.
There's so much that in one lifetime you couldn't ever learn it all. Mm-hmm. Also, part of that is because it's always developing and new things are coming out. Like when we were talking about Warbla coming out and 3D printing becoming commonplace and accessible. I would never even imagine that a few years ago kind of deal, right? And now where it's commonplace, what will the next thing be? I have no idea.
AI, I don't know.
Oh, God, no.
No, let's not talk about
not AI.
No, not AI. No, AI.
It's this thing where it's like, we can't know what we're going to be learning next. Do I have a list of things I plan on learning? Absolutely, there's a list.
We both agree on this. I mean, the journey is important, like learning stuff. That's where I get my kick in cosplay, to be honest.
Honestly, like, as cheesy as it sounds, best part of cosplay is the people. Hi, we're friends, and I'm in his house right now. Right? Like, that kind of thing, right?
Yay.
Like, the people are really great.
Yeah.
My favorite part of the actual cosplaying part is making it. I prefer it over wearing it. wigs and me aren't friends. Things on my head, for someone who loves hats and loves making them, I can't do things on my head. This area is actually really sensitive, apparently, I have learned, because I'm like, oh god, my Arta wig is super uncomfortable. Like, what do you mean?
When you wear wig caps, there's always like this line that comes after,
Uh-huh.
And it's super sensitive, and it itches during a few days.
Absolutely. I actually, because of wigs, I actually started getting the undercut, and then I found out that was the best decision of my life. But I have an undercut under my hair. It's kind of filled in, but it's
we see it.
It's shaved up to like here.
Yep.
And part of that was because it would pull down my wig caps, creating this pressure right here.
Yep.
It was actually my Monica cosplay. It made me realize I needed to get that because it always sticks out brown.
Yep.
Because my hair is like, it's really, really, really low for a woman.
Yep.
Apparently, unfortunately for me. So wigs don't cover the back of my head, which is great for Snow White because I chose the same color as the exact same color as my hair intentionally. So this would just look naturally up. Because if you see a shaved scalp, a little bit of brown hair that is that person's it's their neck hair, right? And then you see the wig just going up into that. It doesn't look like a wig that way.
Yeah.
So I took advantage of it. Doesn't work when the character's hair is bubblegum pink.
Yeah. But one advantage of having your hair shorter than usual other women, for example, is that and also it's easier for wig caps because you have less volume.
Less volume, less pressure all around. It's far more comfortable for me. Again, I can't do things in my head for too long. So, in truth, I love wearing my cosplays. I prefer making them.
Yeah.
And I love performing on stage. There are times where I do take my costume on very soon after, and often. Now that I know more my limitations and stuff like that, I am often planning costumes well ahead of time, knowing what my limitations and comfort are. Like, okay, this might be uncomfortable. I actually predicted that Rosie would be very uncomfortable because I'd have to wear heels, I'd be corseted, and usually all these things on their own are fine. But when you add in all of them, and then, face paint, which I hadn't done in years.
Oh, really?
Right? I hadn't done it since the Homestuck days. We're back at the Homestuck, guys. I'm so sorry.
I did it last year. I can tell you it requires at least 45 minutes to an hour of carefully applying. Yeah. I only had the head to make.
That was one of my choices at Rosie. It's only
the hands. And hands, too. It was.
I got the gloves. I was so happy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was... I went into... I don't like the feeling of makeup. I'm not wearing any right now. I don't it feels weird. I have to wear a very special foundation. I don't like it. I don't like how it feels at all. I don't like false lashes. Nope. Yeah. I can't.
Well, I would say my girlfriend also does not wear makeup, but I mean, her and you don't need it in normal.
Thank you.
You don't need it, to be honest.
Well, I appreciate that. But it does help the skin in the long term, to be fair.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, because if you don't wear makeup, you're not clogging up all your pores. It helps it breathe and you don't break out, so you don't need the makeup.
Yep.
That's in my case where I am very fortunate. I have clear skin, I wash it a lot, but I don't like the way it feels too much. So I went into again, I wear a specific kind of foundation for the sake of knowing how, because sometimes I'm just like, okay, all I can feel is makeup and wig right now. I don't like this. So about to go into face paint, I was like, this might be a nightmare. This could potentially and I wasn't worried really about the corset or the shoes or the wig. It was the face paint I was worried about. But then realizing I had all these other elements, I was like, I have the potential to get out of this feeling not great. So while planning the costume, I did all I could to make it as comfortable as possible. And another thing I like to do is make something as yeetable as possible. If I need to get out of this, it's an emergency, I need out now. Yeah, I can get out of it quick.
Yeah, I understand. I cannot do that with my 2 latest cosplays, so I fully appreciate that you can do that.
But when I can, I implement those things. And then it turned out, again, corsets, if you're used to them and you're safe with them, can be so comfortable. So mine's very comfortable. I'm very used to it now. So I was comfortable. The shoes were fine. They're little booties. They're adorable, and they're not too heelish. The wig was cooperating, and I forgot I was wearing makeup. I had gray face paint on, and I forgot I had and false lashes and all of that. I was like, oh my god. Yeah. I didn't start wearing false lashes until after Attackathon 2022.
Really?
It was Meg who went, "Are you wearing false lashes for W?" Oh, it was right before WCS. I test run them at YetiCon that year to see how I liked them. I didn't. I had never done them before because I have things about my eyes and also my teeth. Oh, that was everything at Rosie. She has pointy teeth.
Oh. So prosthetics, something like that? What did you do?
I got the little, they're called, oh shoot, what are they called?
Like
I can't remember the company. It's a professional grade, like tooth safe company.
All right.
But once I got them on, I was fine. But they were one of the other points where I was like, that might be uncomfortable. But like, I have a thing about like my own. It's not other people's. Like, I don't wear eye contacts. Even like when I'm not wearing these, I still don't wear contacts.
Yeah.
I can actually legally drive without them, but I sure do look blurry.
Yeah.
Like everything's blurry around me.
What's the strength of your glasses?
I don't even remember, but it's only for distance.
Okay, same for me.
Great, because if I'm out in public and cosplay, I don't have them on or any contacts because I can't put things in my eyes.
Yeah.
And part of that is actually a doctor's thing. Like the doctor went, you know what, your twin sister's her regular day-to-day contacts get lodged in her eyeball a lot.
Oh,
and I went, oh. So like I cosplay and he just says, stop.
Yeah.
Don't. I know where this is going. Don't do the contacts. The fake.
No.
So he was just like, don't do that. Your sister's eyes and your twins, there's a potential that yours would also. I'm like, okay, done. Not doing that.
Yeah.
But if someone is like gawking at me over at a park when I'm in a park doing a photo shoot or something, I can't tell.
Yeah, me neither. My glasses are very, very essential in conventions. Otherwise, I would not be able to recognize my friends from far.
I can recognize people. Like, again, your face was fine from here. I can navigate decently, but most times I just put my glasses on over. But when it comes time to the photo shoots, or sometimes like yesterday when I was out, and we were just kind of out taking photos by the water, I wasn't wearing them at all. I was just like, okay, they're gonna stay in your house, Pete. And then I was just they were guiding me around, but I didn't like I could see perfectly fine. It was beautiful. The trees looked great, and I could see that no problem.
Yeah.
But it's not dangerous for me. Other people, it might be dangerous for them. If you don't have your glasses on, you're just so blind that they're just like...
Yeah, I've grown so used to have my glasses anytime, so...
I think it's also like a thing where we need to be accommodating towards that kind of stuff, because not everyone can put contacts on. And some people, like, their glasses are so strong that they need to be wearing them. And, like, they don't have the option for contacts. But yeah, I don't do anything with eyes, so eyelashes, hard. Contacts, can't do them. Teeth, freaks me out. I have so many nightmares about teeth.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't. Dentists, I probably had a lot of dental work.
Yeah.
I probably have some childhood trauma or something around teeth. So getting to you had to, like, put a putty in those teeth to wear them.
Yeah. And
then they dry and you pull them out, but you have to put pressure. That was a nightmare.
Yeah, you might be scared that the real teeth will come off.
Exactly. So I was having a bad time with those. But once they're made, they just pop them back on. So I had a lot of elements on Rosie, and you'd be surprised that the makeup was the least concern.
Oh, for sure.
When I was going in like, oh, it's gonna be awful. Rosie's very comfortable. She doesn't look like she is.
Yep.
I was vibing. Like, I don't have to worry about the skirts. Like, usually in a big dress, you have to worry about skirts. I made it the right length. I just walk. I just wrist up, walk. And it's great.
Yeah, some people might be surprised, but for some of my recent cosplays, especially the Kamurabi, the big armor, I mean, it's only that I need to walk, let's say, I have to put my feet in a V position every time when I walk, the V walk. But other than that, it's just that it can be hot. But I wear it in the Quebec City Comic Con, and it was it was not there was no heat wave, so it was fine. So it's just that you have to pay attention sometimes to your sweat level, because I was wearing a jaw armor on my glued with a spirit gum. Yes. So, and I forgot to bring at the convention some spare spirit gum on a bag or something. So it started to peel off a bit, but it was not critical. So it's a lesson learned. Next time, do not forget your bag that you all prepared and you just forgot to bring.
An EVA foam does not breathe. That's another thing, learning like historical stuff, but also just like in modern stuff. Rosie doesn't breathe because that is polyester satin, right? Like that doesn't breathe at all. And I bought that because I was making her like, she was a completely like, all cosplays are for fun, but this was like, I gotta have something ready for Comic-Con. It's my 10-year anniversary of Masquerades, and it was my first. I gotta do something. Yeah. So I did Rosie because Logan convinced me it was a good idea, and it was because that skit was funny. But that was just like a pure like we're just vibing,
Yeah.
right? I had a great time making it, but I wasn't putting a huge budget on it. It was, I'm doing this. I was going to wear it in a competition, but it wasn't this whole, like, I wasn't putting a lot of stakes into it. It was, I'm having a fun time on this, and I have to get it done in time. I don't usually crunch, and I don't usually do that much. I usually have costumes done months ahead of time when they're due. Like, I make the due date 3 months ahead of time.
I'm curious, what's your your thoughts on crunching or...
Well, crunching, totally valid thing to do. You gotta just please do it in a safe and healthy manner, please. Some people I've actually seen, like, burn out on that kind of stuff.
Yep, I've seen that too.
I have never really crunched my own stuff. I've helped other people crunch their stuff. But that's because, again, my favorite part is the process. Mm-hmm. So I don't like rushing the process. Even Rosie, I felt I was rushing it a bit. Even though, like, I was like, oh my God, I'm like con crunching. My friend's like, Annie, the con is 3 months away.
Yeah.
You're not crunching. I'm like, I feel like I am. It was fine. But I was using quicker techniques. And I would have liked to have made it with, like, some of the more proper historical techniques, but I made it more the theater route. So I took some shortcuts. It didn't affect the quality of the costume, but it wasn't the way I would have made it to enjoy it. When I made my Sakizo, for example, I made that in a span of 6 months while I was off of work, because I'm only at work for a little over half the year, now 7.5 months.
Yep.
So in that time I was working on the Sakizo, and I was like, you know what? I'm not just gonna French seam like the sides. I'm going to like hand fell the inside seam allowances and make it really clean around the inside to make it nice and flat, but like the inside arguably is as pretty as the outside.
Yep.
And I enjoyed it. Like, right? I was just like, I'm not just doing this to be pretentious and be like, I'm making historical stuff. No. And that's the thing. Most people who make the historical stuff, they use the historical techniques because it's enjoyable.
Yep.
I like to sit and hand fell down a like felled over seam so it's nice and enclosed and pretty and like, is it the historically proper technique? In some cases, yes. But I really enjoyed it. Compared to like when I made Rosie, I couldn't take the time to sit there and hand fell stuff. I'm like, okay, I'm going to finish this in a more modern way that's faster.
Yep.
And I was like, that kind of took a little bit of the fun out of it. In the end, I had a really great time because the hat was a lot of fun and a lot of handwork.
Yeah.
And I did that all the proper way.
But I must say, but at the end, you're the specialist in this. But for people like going at the Canada Upper Village, Upper Canada Village, or so they won't know the difference. So good for you that you want to be accurate, and we admire that. But something to be aware of.
Yeah, it's very important for us. Like a lot of times, we serge seams on the inside because it's faster and practical. It's a very clean way to finish things. So that is also why I like to like do the really fancy hand finishings on my own costumes, because I don't get to always do that at work because we gotta do the fast seams. So we use a serger on the side seams.
Yeah.
But the stuff you do see, like the hems on the ladies' dresses are all machine done. Those are huge. Like we're not doing that all by hand.
Oh no.
But the men, if you see a piece of top stitching on a man's shirt, that's all by hand. Because it looks authentic and proper. Sewing machines were not the norm, and they did not look the way our current stitches do.
Yeah.
So we make it look authentic where it needs to be authentic, and then we take the modern shortcut. So it's the same theater method that I mentioned, where you make stuff so it's fast, practical, and then you put your time into the aesthetic stuff on top.
Yeah.
So are these costumes all one-to-one replicas of stuff? No. Because of that, though, I get so much enjoyment out of making stuff like with all the proper techniques and like the hand finishings on the inside. I think that's fun. And I don't get to always do. Sometimes I get to do it at work, and that's very fun to me. But it's fun to me. So I always make my costumes well ahead of time. And that's also for another reason. It is more budget friendly to make your costumes well ahead of time.
Yeah.
Because if you're like, okay, next year I want to make these costumes, you start looking for the fabric early on.
It can take some time too.
It can take some time to find it.
Yep.
It takes to find the right thing, the right color, or the right dye if you're dyeing it.
Yep.
Sometimes sales are a thing.
Yeah.
Right? If you know well ahead of time what you're planning on working on, you can get that fabric when it's on sale. You can start like, okay, I know these are my next projects. Here's what I'm looking for. And oftentimes I do find the thing that's on sale and go, oh my God, that's exactly what I need. It's on sale.
Yeah.
So Black Friday sales are coming up, guys.
Oh, that's right.
If you know what your 2025 plans are looking like, and you're like, oh God, yeah, I should probably, like, if you're trying to think of that, that helps. So it helps time-wise. You don't get as stressed if you make it ahead of time.
Yep.
You might save some money too.
Yep.
And also, when you're rushing and you make mistakes, you have to go out and buy more, or
Exactly. So by spreading it over time, it's better.
also, like, my Snow White cosplay technically cost about $1,000 overall. That was the total cost.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't, in a way. Like, it did. But I bought it pieces at a time. Like, the pieces that go into it. I bought all the fabric at the same time. Like, the silk was all bought at the same time. But the stuff made for the undergarments was months before I ever bought any fabric.
Mm-hmm.
Like, almost a year. I started making all the base layers first. So I started purchasing the base layers, mostly with stuff that was on sale.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm slowly buying. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get the corset supplies. Buy the corset supplies with some of the other supplies for the hoop skirt. And then a few weeks later, I'm buying this stuff. So when you buy it incrementally, so while I'm working on the dress, I'm thinking about the crown.
Yep.
And so now I have all this silk. I'm making the dress. It's gonna take me months. That gives the me time to look for the Swarovski crystals, look for the best deal, not just the first thing I find. I can find the best deal, maybe one that's in Canada, maybe one that is farther away that I have time to wait for it. So if the cheapest option's in the UK and that's going to take several weeks to get here, I know I have the time because I'm working on the other piece.
Yep.
Or there's a sale. That's when you buy it.
Yeah.
So it's I'm always like thinking ahead on what my next projects are so that I can look out for these things. And sometimes that's not what I was thinking of using, but that's a really good deal and it's pretty.
Yeah.
So I'm always doing that. And again, it helps me so I'm not crunching. I'm not worried and I can still enjoy the making process.
Yeah. Speaking of organizing your projects, do you have, from what I understand with what you just said, you have, let's say, a couple of projects in advance that you want to do. So you're doing that.
Oh yeah, my next 3 are in my brain already.
Okay. Yeah.
There's some progress already. My current project that I'm working on now that I'm off. This is actually my first day off work. Technically the weekend was, but these are my first days actually off work for the year and until April most likely.
Wow, that's long.
I have a lot of time off. So
can we call that vacation or something else?
We call it the hiatus. That's what we call it at work. The hiatus.
All right.
It's always, what are you doing during your like the winter? What are you doing during the hiatus? Like, it's kind of fun. And it's officially what it's called. So first off, I gotta finish off some videos.
Yep.
My son cosplay, the one I was proposed to, and doesn't have a video out yet. I sure did film everything. And same with Rosie, where I go into more depth about this is why I didn't do this. So I need to finish editing those, and I put extra special detail onto the Sun one. Sun is Skyward Sword Zelda, but from Linked Universe. So it's also a deep dive into the design analysis of Linked Universe at the same time. I've mixed it together to make it a very long, more interesting video, which makes it harder to edit.
Nice.
And then the Rosie one's gonna be more straightforward, but before I start a new project, I need to finish those 2.
Yeah.
Because I now have 2 I have a backlog. Before I can make the new one, I need to finish these. Like, those costumes aren't done until the video's out, guys.
Yeah, it makes me think of my current project. I mean, I want to work on the spear, the thing that's left.
Yeah.
But I have it's been a year since I worked on the armor and everything. I don't want to forget how I built it. I have lots of work in progress photos and such, but I want to write tutorials for that.
Exactly.
Ideally before Halloween, before I show my cosplay to my colleagues at work.
Yeah, which I think is so cool, by the way. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is something I often do. But I do my next project, and yeah, I sure do already have the fabrics. Fabricland had a sale. I see the thing I was just talking about. We did it again.
Shout out to Fabricland here.
Actually, it was Fabricville.
Fabricville.
Fabricville's the better one.
Fabricville in Quebec.
I don't have any fabric stores where I live.
Really?
I moved somewhere where they had a fabric store and it shut down.
So where do you go instead of when you don't buy the stuff online? Where do you go?
Cornwall Giroux Sewing Center, because they have a really good fabric store there and a really good machine maintenance. We have the best there, which is near where my parents live, which is great. I love to come to Saint Hubert.
Yeah, Saint Hubert is nice.
Oh,
very nice.
Oh, it's good.
Lots of options.
Planning to make a trip maybe in November.
Yes.
But yeah, so my next project is actually more of a stash buster project using things I already have as much as possible.
Yep.
But also the goal is to not spend too much money. So what the project is I don't know if you've seen my vlog from Ottawa Comic Con.
No, I
Okay.
haven't watched it.
So
I saw it on my YouTube feed, but I did not watch it, sadly.
So whether or not
Sorry.
you it's
It's
okay,
fine.
no problem.
No,
don't worry about it.
it's all right.
I don't absolutely don't.
I'm not the
I
only one
forget
that
that
should be sorry.
I forget that people watch. I put videos on the internet and I forget people watch stuff. Like they're like, oh my god, when you did this video, I'm like, you saw that? What? How did you? Right, I post on the internet. Like I do that all the time. It's bonkers.
It's fine.
But so in that vlog at one point, two of my friends, A Strange Crow and Chunky Chickadee together, who are Foam and Feather, they found out I was entering Ottawa Comic Con. They're like, you know what? We were gonna go. We should enter something too. They're like, what do we have to enter? It was a month to the con. What did they do? They make a brand new cosplay.
Wow.
Right after Chunky Chickadee had been the WCS prelim, she's like,
sure, why not?
she's like, I just finished a thing I've been working on for a long time. I need to work on something else. Like, she was just so used to working on stuff all the time. So she made this, and they've been really into, and for good reason, Dungeon Meshi.
Mm-hmm.
So they made like fancy versions, kind of inspired a little bit by like Hannah Alexander, Sunset Dragon, like these kind of designers, like that kind of vibe, but it was their own designs of it. And as they're putting on the costumes, there's a clip of me where I kind of go like, I love these costumes. These are great. Like, this is such a fun idea. And I'm just like making your own of a character that you really like it's always fun. But like the fact that they made it like quick, but still like they added like fancy little elements and made it their own. I'm like, oh, that's so fun. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, does this mean I need to make Marcel? Because Marcel's absolutely my favorite in Dungeon Meshi. Yep. And then they go, absolutely. But if you do, then you have to do it in under a month like we did.
Wow.
And I just go,
and you don't like crunching, so...
So I don't like crunching.
Yeah.
But this is also knowing I'm about to be off, right? I'm about to be off of work.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So they made that in a month while they're both full-time employees.
Well, it's feasible since you will have the time to do it.
And I'm a YouTuber. What is better than being like, I was challenged to make a costume in under a month? That's content, baby.
I see.
But I have this beautiful leftover silk from my Snow White cosplay. This dark blue, very Marcel colored.
Wow.
And I have quite a lot of it, and it's expensive. I would like to use it. So it's the right fanciness to look good with like the velvet on Chunky Chickadee's cosplay. So I started sketching and I came up with ideas like, what can I make that's like a quicker idea? And I ended up coming up with a sketch I really like. It's not complicated. There is a little, I say that, and there is a corset on it, but it's a corset belt, and I can make those very fast. At this point, I've actually really love making them. They're really fun. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, feasibly, I can do this in a month when I'm off of work. So that'll probably be my November, or the month will start whenever I finish editing those videos. That's what's gonna probably be. But I'm like inspired, motivated, and I'm like, feasibly, because of that alone, I probably will be able to get it done in a month. If I don't, that's fine, because there's no con deadline or anything.
No, it's fine.
Right? It's still open. It's not, you gotta make this to join us at this con.
Yeah.
There's none of that. When it's done, it'll probably be done by AnnieCon. I will wear it with them. But there's no con deadline like they had. I don't do well with those. They do way much better with them than I do. So I'm like, I don't have that aspect.
Mm-hmm. You said you don't do well with con deadlines? Or deadline in general?
Deadlines in general.
Yeah,
I don't.
yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, most of my YouTube schedule, it's a self-imposed deadline.
It's fine. I mean,
right? Like
you have liberty to let's say, for example, my tutorials for Halloween. I mean, I want them to be finished by Halloween, but if it's not done, the world will not stop. So
exactly.
It's fine.
And even like when it comes to like cosplay stuff, unless it is for like a specific team project, like maybe it's a WCS prelim, or you're doing a big group at a con or something like that, it does suck when you can't get it done.
Yeah.
Like no matter what it does, but at least if you're like, oh, I really want it done for the masquerade this weekend, there's other masquerades though. There will be other cons.
Yep.
Right? And don't ever play the what if game like, oh, but what if I did enter that when I won something really big? Or don't do that to yourself. Just sometimes it's just you can't get it done. There's going to be another time to wear it.
Yeah.
And again, it does suck when it is in a team environment. That really can really suck. But if it's for your own benefit and health, that is more important than like any of that. And if you're with good friends and teammates or whatever the situation might be,
they will understand in a way.
They will understand.
There are sub deadlines that cannot be pushed. Let's say WCS prelims or something like that. But yeah, I mean, I think it's healthier for your mental health and everything.
We have teams that back out all the time from the WCS prelims because they go, this is not worth my well-being right now, and that's good actually. If you're saying, if I enter this, I'm going to be having a bad time, I'm going to be physically ill, it's okay to back off and enter it another time.
And also, there's always a next year for that. So if you want to use that, you can.
As long as you don't, I think there's something if you back out too close to the show day, you could get a repercussion if you might have. There might be some of that. I don't 100% know. I'm not the person who selects and does all of that. I believe there is a rule about that I cannot remember completely off the top of my head.
Yeah, because you don't want all your participant to
drop that repercussion.
And then always drop and always drop.
Yeah.
Or there could be, let's say, a penalty or something.
Exactly. So it's just a little like, so people don't just continuously do that. It is in place. I think it is a repercussion kind of thing. Yeah. And that is perfectly fair. Most people who are entering competitions like that, where you have to apply to get in, NCC, or even in the States, you got like the C2, E2, the Crown Championships. If you have applied to get into these things and have gotten in, I can tell you, this person probably wants to be there, right? Like, they want to be there. It's not, I'm going to enter this for the lols and, like, I'm not actually going to show up. No, if you're putting that much effort into, like, applying and filling out these forms, you want to be there.
Yeah.
The organizers also get that, right? And also, if your form is filled out, because these application forms are usually like online things, and you're just like, LOL, IDK.
Oh, it will be rejected.
They're gonna be like,
first day.
Yeet. Like, like any of those things. Also, that's a whole other thing. Fill out your applications properly, please. For these
it's important. Yeah.
But it is this like whole thing where it's just like, it sucks, but then it's not worth your well-being or your friendships or any of that. And like, I'm never going to be like, don't ever crunch, because everyone's lifestyles and abilities are different. I have narcolepsy. I can't crunch.
Yeah.
I physically can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
I've never I can't pull all-nighters. Someone in my fashion program once was talking to some high school kids who were coming through, taking a look at the program, and she's like, oh, everyone pulls at least a few all-nighters. And I'm sitting there like, I literally spoke up and went, I never have. Unless you're Annie, then you don't pull all-nighters. Yeah. But I know my limitations. I know where they fit. So I work to make sure I fit in those limitations and don't go over them, basically. If I know that I'm like, well, with a con, for example, I had to say no to one con. I wanted to help them out. But it would end up being, I would have to travel there for several hours, work the day, and then travel back. I physically can't do that.
Yeah. How much time will it have took the entire
that whole thing together? 12-ish hours.
Wow.
Again, driving on both ends of that. That's including the 12 hours, and then you're busy all day.
That looks like one of my days when I was at cons at my beginnings in cosplay. I was spending like 12 to 14 hours at a con. It was super exhausting.
And in this situation, I would have been like doing stuff. Like, I wasn't just going to be like there. Like, it was this whole thing. Like, I was like, I want to be able to help. I physically can't do that.
No.
And that was like I realize now, like, I've had moments at cons recently where I've been like, okay, I need to rearrange how I even do cons. I sometimes even cosplay less, or I won't cosplay every day of the con now.
Same for me. Starting in 2019, I wanted to... there was lots of stuff happening, let's say, with events I was organizing and stuff like that. I decided, I was like, I wanted to remove, not myself completely, but reduce my exposure to some elements of the cosplay community. And then I started to reduce my time at cons. So, for example, before I was arriving at maybe 9, 10 a.m., the first people in the line for the vending hall, that was me when I started.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And I was there on Saturdays until 10 p.m. At the end of the masquerade. So 14 hours in cosplay at my beginning. That was painful.
And there's been a few cons this year where I was like, okay, like Anime North was a good example. I didn't cause. I was in Lolita fashion, which I find more manageable because again, you're tired plus wig that I find head stuff is sensitive for me. Wearing a beret versus wearing a wig and stuff, different story. So I wore Lolita the one day, and then I wore my cosplay, the idol, the other day. So Riko Sakaguchi from Love Live with Meg, which is very fun. That was a really fun day.
Yay.
And I was like, okay, the next day I'll wear Suzy Q from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I haven't worn this costume out at cons very much. I made it like in 2020. It hasn't gone its time. But I was very tired and I was very hot. Anime North is always hot, no matter when it is. Always boiling.
Yeah. Anime North is either, I call it park and con in a way, so you have the heat effect with the asphalt and concrete everywhere, and that's kind of normal. You expect it. Yep. Exactly. You walk a lot.
I was like, I'm going to be very hot if I'm in cosplay, because also your head's covered. Head coverings make you warmer. That's unfortunately a thing. Even the most ventilated wig I still find very difficult. But I was just like, I don't think I'm going to be very comfortable. I don't think I can handle cosplaying on this second day.
Yep.
And I made the right call. I was plenty comfortable after that. I wasn't driving that day too, to be fair. But I was like, I need to kind of rearrange how I do this. And I'm trying to think of all the cons I've done this year. I'm like, I wasn't in cosplay 3 days at Ottawa Comic Con. Normal. In full Rosie, and that one I planned that very specifically. I did not plan a second cosplay because I was like, I don't know how I'm going to feel after Rosie. I was fine. I wore Lolita the following day, and I loved it. And that's been something I really enjoy about like Lolita in alternate fashion at cons. I can still enjoy that aspect, but I'm not in cosplay. I'm not on in cosplay.
Yeah, it makes me think of I now dedicate an entire day at each con I'm going as a photographer. So it like you do sometimes you volunteer in the green room or something without wearing a cosplay. So that's one way to, let's say, in my case, it was a way to rediscover conventions and bring my love to increase my love for them, because it went down. But now with photography, it was I was motivated to go to the third day at a con, for example.
Yeah, and it's a totally different experience on that side. And I find it fun because again, like I still get to be like in my first off, I don't get to wear Lolita very much on my day to day. I live in Brockville, Ontario. It is more uncomfortable than daily clothes, but it is more comfortable in cosplay for me because most of the stuff I do have is very comfortable, airy stuff. For my Lolita stuff. But again, no wig. And you don't need makeup or much makeup in Lolita. I don't usually put eyeliner on. I usually put that foundation I have that I find very comfortable. I don't put what I call my cosplay foundation on top of it.
Yeah.
Regular foundation. I put a little bit of glitter because I don't feel. It's fine. And I do a little bit of eye makeup, but I don't do lashes. I don't do eyeliner. A little bit of mascara. And that is comfortable. So no wig, no makeup. I'm also just me. It's kind of nice sometimes to just be you at a con. You know?
For sure. Maybe it helps that you have a YouTube channel or online presence where you show you show yourself out of cosplay. So it's kind of your personality, your image.
That's actually so. This has never happened before to me. This year I've been getting recognized at cons because I've been out of costume sometimes. But oftentimes when you get recognized when you're at a con, it is, oh my God, I've seen you on Instagram. Oh my God, I've seen you on here. Like you get recognized for like that costume. Or it's, oh my God, that whatever costume. Like you get recognized as the character.
Yeah.
I've had a few this year, especially again, I've been out of costume a lot more. You're AnnieChie Designs. And I'm like, what is going on? And like, in the coolest way possible in the sense. And then like one person's like, oh my God, are you Annie? And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm not. And they're like, can we get a selfie? And I'm like, oh, I'm not in cosplay today yet or anything. And they're like, no, like we want a selfie with you. Why?
Wow.
Why? I literally went and I was like, right, I have a YouTube channel.
Because you're a nice person. You are a good person. You have a good personality.
And it happened 3 times at Attackathon.
Wow.
And that was only in times I was out of cosplay. Was I even in cosplay at Attackathon? Yes, for like half an hour. Oh no, it was like 3 hours. Either way, I wasn't in cosplay much, but I was recognized as AnnieChie Designs.
Yep.
And happened somewhere else too. It happened. So it happened at Hackathon. That was the big one. That was
I can tell when it happened for me, but it's less glorious for me. I was going at the men's toilet at the Palais des Congrès, and I was doing a photo shoot that day. It's like someone came to the toilet. I was exiting the toilet, and there's a guy that said, "Wait, are you a GDI commander?" It's like, yeah, that's me.
That's so good.
You caught me at the toilet, dude.
I've also been mistaken as Bandit Spurs multiple times. I get it though.
I can understand why.
We have a lot of the same following because if you like her content, you probably like mine. Similar local community.
I would say you have both similar faces in a way. Yeah.
I mean, it's both blue eyes and stuff.
I can understand. Yeah.
Her and I have more similar size measurements than my twin sister and I do, or at least we did at one point. We're the same exact height. My sister and I are not the same height. Our like bust, waist, hip, we're the same exact thing. Our costumes, we can absolutely yeet them at each other and like almost always fit. Depends on specifically the costume.
Yeah, some parts of the body. Yeah.
Because just because the measurement's the same doesn't mean the shape is the same in certain areas. But we could mostly like swap. So I get why that happens. But yeah, I've been, and also like Ottawa Comic Con, there I am, like I joke half naked. I was in full like Victorian underwear, right? So I'm not naked at all.
So I can see why, yeah.
Right,
yeah,
but it is technically underwear. So I'm running around my underwear on my way back to the hotel.
As long as it's legal in the con. So.
Well, exactly. I am covered from here all the way to my feet, right?
Oh,
it's
fine.
just my
that's
arms
fine.
are out, and you can like see the corset and my little leg petticoat. It's cute. It's actually a cute outfit, not gonna lie. I could just wear it. And I did. I wore it to the con and out because it had been raining. So there I am. I don't have the hat on. Everything's in a garment bag. I'm carrying it over my shoulder. I'm pulling a bag behind me. I'm in my Victorian underwear. From the neck up, I am still gray.
Yeah.
So you see my beige skin here with my great tan because I go outside every day. But I'm like here up. I'm gray. White wig is still on because I don't want to look like a total fool. I absolutely did look like a total fool.
Yep.
And so we're about to cross the street. We're waiting for the street to change. And there's like a bunch of other people also moving towards the hotel. And I just hear, "Excuse me." And I just turn around and there's these two younger cosplayers. I would say like teenagers. I'm like, "Are you AnnieChie Designs?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I am." And they're at first I thought maybe it was someone saw me in the masquerade and like heard my name. Because that happens a lot. People are like, "Oh, that's okay. I'll remember that name."
Yep.
They listen for who the names are. And I'm like, "Oh, it's probably someone who saw me as Rosie and then now is seeing this." And it's like, "Is that the same person?" It turns out they're like, "You're a YouTuber, right?" It's someone who was trying to tell if it was the same person they were thinking it was. And it turns out they were actually 2 subscribers of mine. And "Can we get a picture with you?" And I'm like, "Really?"
Wow.
I'm like, "I'm sorry I look like this, but sure." And like even those first girls, like, "Can I get a selfie with you?" Like people have now asked me few times at Hackathon, all 3 asked me for photos. Like, "Can I get a photo with you?"
That's nice.
And I was like,
"Yep."
But I'm not. And again, my first response was, "But I'm not in costume." And they're like, "No, we want a photo with the person." And I'm like, It was this really weird, again, this weird moment where I forget I put content on the internet. People watch it.
Yeah.
Like one of the young girls said, "Congratulations for getting engaged." And at first I'm like, "How'd she know that?" Right.
You said it on YouTube?
I put it on YouTube. My engagement's on YouTube. But I was just like, again, my brain doesn't compute. I sure do know that I make YouTube content and people watch it.
Speaking of YouTube, ever thought of going to conventions like VidCon or YouTube more?
I don't know.
Content creator conventions?
Maybe.
I don't know, maybe.
I don't know.
There are some that exist.
I considered it, yeah. Like, maybe if there's like a really good like opportunity or like certain friends of mine also want to go or anything. Like if you ever want to do TwitchCon, I'd come with you. Does that still exist?
Yes, it exists, but it's like there are some editions spread around the world. So,
yeah.
yeah.
I can see the same question to you, right? It's like, would you do TwitchCon?
Well, to well, I'm not known in the streaming communities, but
I'm not technically known in the YouTube one.
Well, I could say the same when I started cosplay. So just going to panel, looking at what the community does there, it could lead to something. I would say when I started cosplay, I didn't have any friends at cons, so I went to panels and I started to find people that I had some.
Le Club Attack Zelda.
Exactly.
That was great.
Yep.
Isn't that where you met your girlfriend?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you can meet people at cons.
You can even have them as your partner in life if you want to.
Mhm.
So
or you can introduce a new partner to them, and now they're like, yeah, you con, and they propose to you there.
Awesome.
But that's all, like, it's really we're back at the community again, though, right? Like, it's that, and then it's the
that's why I do cosplay, to be honest.
Yeah, and then you can there's notoriety in the sense of, like, you're not, like, it doesn't mean you're famous. There's this, I know you because I've seen you around before, is a different kind of notoriety.
Yeah.
And I've actually absolutely gotten that. I've also been mistaken for friends that way too, because I hang around those friends and they're like, oh, I've seen you before, and they know one of the people in the photo they've seen before is that person. Go Beyond Cosplay, I've been mistaken for a lot because I hang around them.
Yep.
And they see a Go Beyond Cosplay was tagged in that photo. They later see me in person, go, are you? No, they were the other person tagged in the photo.
Yeah.
But it's that they know that they've seen you. And that's what I like about communities, is, like, it's such a small world. There's a cosplayer in the community. Shout out to Lifebinder Cosplay. Wonderful cosplayer in Ottawa. Does really cool builds, usually a little bit multimedia and stuff. I found out recently when I added her on Facebook, I saw some of her friends in common, and it wasn't who I expected it to be.
Oh.
That is my uncle's ex-wife and my cousins. Multiple cousins. And then I look at her cover photo at the time, or something like that. There was a photo from her wedding, and one of her bridesmaids is my older cousin.
Oh.
Like, and I'm just
We're going full circle again.
Yeah, and again with the cousins, always my cousins.
Wow.
So there she, and, like, I'm, like, so curious, and I'm just like, I snoop a little bit because I'm curious. I hate to admit it, but they've been friends forever from what I can tell. And then so at Comic-Con, I see Lifebinder Cosplay, and I'm like, first of all, she did not recognize me as Rosie, which was very funny. I'm like, it's AnnieChie Designs, and she's like, oh my god. And I was like, yeah, so you're, like, best friends with my older cousin? And then she's like, what? And I'm like, this cousin? And then she's like, you're kidding me. What? So we had this really funny moment, and I'm just like, she's never told me her best friend cosplay. She's like, she never told me her younger cousin cosplay. We sure, like, she definitely knows both of us cosplay.
Yep.
They say I've seen her say congratulations to me on posts when I, like, win an award, or if she likes one of my costumes. My cousin does comment on my stuff, and same with her friend. And I'm just like, this is wild. Like, even her, like, public pages, I see my cousin. I'm like, she's been commenting on herself all along, and I never noticed. And they've been best friends. And then she told me, she's like, oh, I'm like, you guys have been best friends you guys have been really close friends for a while. She's like, since we're 6.
Wow.
What?
Wow.
What? Small world?
Yeah.
And again, like, I never knew this stuff at all. I did not know her best friend was into cosplay, and she's a good cosplayer too.
Sometimes you don't even suspect that someone is doing cosplay. It happened for me at work. Actually, I was in computer science in university from 2007 to 2010, and there was one of my colleagues at work when I started. I saw him at Otakuton 2013. He was like, hey, hello, how are you doing? You're doing cosplay? I said, oh yeah, I'm doing cosplay. He was doing a Full Metal Alchemist cosplay. I would have never suspected that person would do cosplay.
Amazing. I have had once in Anime Ottawa, in Lolita Fashion, one of my coworkers from the village sees me, comes up, says hi, and I'm just like, oh, they're, like, looking at me right now. They also all know I cosplay there. Like, they actually, like, brag about it a little bit, which is really sweet, but they're just like, this is Annie. She's our costume person, and she does it outside, and she has a lot of fun, and she's passionate about it. Go ask her your questions, because they like that I'm passionate about what I do. So they like to also talk about my cosplay stuff. One of my coworkers apparently actually saw me at Anime Ottawa, and he did mention that he saw me in passing. He's like, yeah, you're wearing one of the staff shirts. I'm like, yeah, I was. He's like, yeah, you had a bunch of people with you. Yeah, I did. Because I was staffing with all these staff, and apparently, like, he decided to, like, he didn't have me on Facebook or anything, but I had his mom, because she also works at the village, and he's like, oh, she, like, really cosplays, and I'm like, yeah. He's like, I knew you did, like, cons and stuff. I didn't realize you were, like, into it. I was like, oh, yeah. We're too. Yeah. I'm like, did you not put two together? He's like, I should have thought of the fact that you're in here professionally making costumes, that maybe that would bleed into your cosplay.
Yeah.
Totally didn't think about it. I'm like,
yeah. I know that with Halloween now approaching, there's a costume contest at work.
oh,
And
yeah.
I know that usually when I see very, very beautifully done costumes, I'm like suspending, oh, is that person a cosplayer?
Or is their
And
partner a cosplayer?
Yeah, or their partner as well. So sometimes I ask, and sometimes I get told, oh yeah, I'm a cosplayer, and I discover new cosplayers in my company with that. So
that's really fun.
that's really, really, really cool.
I also had a really fun experience because I went to Ottawa Comic Con straight from work, and I had my Rosie hat because I brought it in. We kind of joked I brought it in for show and tell for the people who like hats because there's a lot of us. Like my direct coworkers in cosplaying. So I have the hat. It's just sitting on a mannequin. Also, it's not getting crushed or melted or anything like that because there is foam clay on it. I'm like, let's not put that in the car, and it's hot.
No, it's also foam clay does not breathe, so something to know.
So you don't want your foam melting onto you. It would take a lot to melt.
No.
Either way, had it in the costume room. You have some of the younger staff in there. They knew I cosplayed. And they're asking, are you going to Ottawa Comic Con? I'm like, yes, I am. Actually, that's my part of my costume over there. And they go, oh, I'm going to look at it. And they go and look at it. Oh, it's so pretty. And one of them steals it for a bit, walks around with it. It was adorable. With her, like, wrong time period costume on already, which was very cute. And then she puts it back on the mannequin and about to leave again. And when she turns back around, she's like, so what character is it for? And I'm like, oh, it's Rosie from Has Been Hotel. The way she spun around and ran back over to that hat, she's like, it's Rose. How did I not recognize? Because she really loves Has Been Hotel.
Yep.
So it's really sweet. And also, again, it's a lot of artists in Upper Canada Village and artisans, people who make things with their hands, right? So they're always like, they want to know about your craft. And I've learned so much from them. I want to get into spinning, like spinning yarn. Because my direct coworker in the room with me, who I'm with all the time, does that as a hobby. And she makes it sound like so much fun. And I'm just like, and she's like, do you know people can take rabbits on their laps if it's the right kind of rabbit and like spin off the rabbit?
What?
You can do that? Usually you have to harvest the wool off of them. Certain kind of rabbits, the way you just kind of go like this and just pull the fur as you go.
I see.
And it doesn't hurt them.
Yeah.
My sister has a lion head rabbit. I want to just go over there, brush him a little bit, and just start to spin. Yeah. I want to
hoping that the rabbit will cooperate and not try to flee.
Apparently, these Angora rabbits, they just sit there and they hang out.
Oh,
but
really?
I'm like,
a bit like cats.
They're just weird cats. They're just weird cats. But yeah, I learned about all these arts. Some of them are old arts that you don't see anymore, which is really cool, like old cottage craft, as they call it. And I think it's really cool. And it's like, again, it's like, oh, it's so nerdy to find like a classic technique that's hundreds of years old cool, but it is cool. And I'm surrounded by incredible, some of our musicians. I asked one of them, like one of them's a student, like, so what do you study? Bluegrass? Go back. Excuse me. You don't, it's not, oh, I study the violin. Oh, I study music. You study bluegrass specifically.
What is bluegrass? I'm not familiar with that.
A type of jazz, a very specific kind of southern jazz.
Wow.
That is his field of study in university.
Okay.
It's like, this is the kind of people I get to work with. This boy has ripped so many shirts that we had to fix this year because he's violining out in the heat and his shirts get torn. One of the other students in his division, the musicians, I was like, what do you study? Opera. Pardon? Opera? Just opera. And then one day I heard her sing and went, yes, she sure does. And then I found out our dressmaker does opera. And then there's all these super talented people. And I'm like, and it's a real community. Like, despite it being like a fake community and fake village, it's a real community of talented, skilled people.
Yeah. I know that because I live with a creative person, my girlfriend in the creative, she does some art commission and things like that.
Good.
I know there's how can I say, sometimes there is not employment that's possible for a lot of creative fields, and sometimes you might see these people doing other jobs, but they use these skills and that makes a very diverse pool of people in a place.
We have some people with such interesting backgrounds and how they got to the village. It's like they have a very niche skill, found out about this village, they live here now. Like, that kind of thing happens all the time. And it's kind of incredible, like people's stories on how they got there. Some people I was raised in the area, right? That's my thing, where I was like, I've always known about the village. Some people discovered it later on in life. It's their retirement job kind of vibe, right? They're like, I love this. This is my passion. This is what I want to do. And I like there are absolutely some like in any job place, there's some people who are kind of like, you know, you're bad egg or they don't really want to be here that much. You know, it's a paycheck and it's a nearby job. But a lot of the people here want to be here.
Yeah.
And again, creative artists that inspire you to want to try their craft.
Yeah.
One day I'm going to go in the blacksmith and it's going to be a dangerous time.
Oh, by the way, you're speaking a lot about their job. Maybe we should ask them to sponsor this thing.
Hey,
but
UCV.
Yay. Oh, that's...
Hey, they like my posts on Instagram. My job follows me on Instagram.
Oh, yeah, that's really, really, really cool. I must say that we're almost at the 2-hour mark. We have spoken a lot.
We have.
It was amazing.
This was a lot of fun.
I mean, I have a list of subjects, and we haven't
even look at the list.
We haven't even touched the half of the subjects. So
yeah, we hit some of them just naturally, which is great.
I was just plugging things from what you were talking about. So. That was really, really, really nice. Unfortunately, I'll have to make a stop because you have to go back home.
I do have to go, yes.
And,
I am going back to Ontario tonight. Halfway, though. So no dangerous driving for me.
Yeah,
I'm actually very
I
awake.
hope that you will drive and be safe.
I will text you when I get home.
Oh, for sure.
Safe.
So, I give for the closing words, where can we find you?
You can find me on Instagram. That's where I'm the most active. And that would be on AnnieChie Designs, all one word. I'm also on Facebook page, same deal. And then I have my YouTube channel as one of my main places as well. That's also AnnieChie Designs, but it's 2 words instead. Where you can find all my vlog content and those darn videos that I've been editing forever that I need to get out there. And I also do have a TikTok too. That's just, I kind of just throw ideas out in the air and talk. But if you liked this, you might like my TikTok.
Yeah.
So... Come hang out. Come say hi. If you have any questions about stuff, send me a DM.
I feel that we should make another podcast eventually because there's so many subjects.
There's some great subjects.
You can talk for hours and it's super passionate.
That's
and
why
interesting.
I made a YouTube channel.
That's really amazing. Go see her YouTube channel. And you will find really great videos about AnnieChie and her world.
You'll see some of the things I referenced today.
Yep. All right. So I'll have to make a stop at this. So thank you, Annie, for having
absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Perfect.
This was fun.
So we'll see you. I don't know when will be the next episode of the podcast. Usually what I do is that I finish a crafting project and then I do a podcast. So when the Kamuravi spear will be finished, I will do another one. So I will reveal the name once. Well, I have some ideas, so you will see it later, maybe in the next 2, 3, 4 months or so. So
that's very exciting.
That's what I plan to do. All right, so take care, everyone. Merci tout le monde d'avoir été là. Bye bye, Joanne. Merci à tout le monde qui ont parlé. Thank you for everyone that have contributed in the chat.
Oui, merci beaucoup. J'étais très haut à ici. French.
Yep.
Très haut élevé ici. There we go. French.
Perfect. Awesome. So thank you very much. And have a great night, everyone. And take care. And bye-bye.